and to Andrew Jones for making the Hall of Fame. Now, we're going to do a little bit more on them later, but unfortunately, trades and signings are more important in our world, in the eye of most of our fans. So we're going to start there, but I just wanted to give them a congrats at the top. And also, I don't want to weigh one versus the other. We did react yesterday. We posted 2 videos that we're not going to run here on this show, but they're on our YouTube channel and on our podcast platform. So if you're on the go, it'd be cool, Apple or Spotify, to check it out there. But we have 2 10-ish minute reaction videos to each of them from yesterday. Check those out. And we'll still go over some of the results because we got all the number breakdown of who else was spiking, like Felix Hernandez, Chase Utley, etc. But congratulations to those 2. More on that later. I would like to begin with a trade from late last night. Charging the mound. It finally happened. Lou Bob is moving on. We had heard the Mets and the Reds forever. The Mets win. They get Luis Robert, and they pay the whole salary. Well, they pay the whole salary, and then they give up Luis Angel Acuna and last year's, 12th round pick, Truman Pauly.
Yeah.
Are you not excited? Are you not entertained?
I am not.
Luis Angel Acuna is a major league player.
Is he, though?
He had 4 home runs in a Venezuelan league game the other day.
Wow.
Nobody was in the stands.
Nobody cares. Cool. Either. I mean, that's awesome.
You're not impressed.
I mean, his career major league OPS is 640. So am I supposed to be excited about that?
He just started.
His career minor league OPS is 751. Okay.
Good athlete, speed, multi-position.
So why the Mets want to give him up?
Maybe they don't believe in him.
Oh, wow. That's weird. Okay. I mean, listen. Here's my thing with this whole trade. Listen, obviously as a White Sox fan, I'm happy that Luis Robert is gone on this year's team because at $20 million, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when your payroll is like $80 million to have one guy making a quarter of it.
Yep.
Now their payroll is down in the 60s, and Chris Getz said that they're going to be allowed to spend that $20 million. So why did you just not release him before the season and not pick up the option? And then you have $20 million to spend for the whole offseason instead of 2 weeks or 3 weeks before spring training starts when the free agent market has already been picked through. Right? Now, will they actually spend that $20 million? Let's find out. I don't know who they'll go get. A starter, a reliever, whoever they want to, an infielder, an outfielder, whatever they think that they need. Now they have $20 million to spend. Let's go see if they use it. Right? But to me, this should have maybe happened after the 23 season when he was really good. Because the last 2 years, Luis Robert Jr. has not been very good.
No, he can't stay on the field either.
He can't stay on the field. Now the Mets, here's what they're banking on. Free agent year, change of scenery, maybe better players around him, depending on how you look at it, which I think you can honestly say. And he's going to be motivated, and they're going to get a great year. And they bought the Boras hype. Where Boras, didn't he switch to Boras? And Boras was like, he's out here working at the Scott Boras Academy, and he's taking this, and we fixed this.
I don't know the agency situation.
I think
he might be right. But he's shown flashes. 23 was amazing.
No, listen, he's shown flashes when he's healthy, but he never stays healthy.
Yeah.
And he strikes out a ton. And when he's on the field, he's great. But he strikes out a ton, and the potential's there, right? Yeah. And now you look at that 2021 White Sox core, they're all gone. The team that was supposed to lead them to the multiple parades, as Rick Hahn once said. We're going to have multiple parades. Well, they had multiple parades getting the fuck out of town.
Maybe he meant trade parade.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Listen, I'm happy he's gone as a White Sox fan just because the $20 million is nice. He wasn't going to make or break them winning the division this year.
I was actually about to go very against you, and then you made a point that made me retreat a bit. I was going to say I criticized them for picking up the option, but they ended up giving him to the Mets, and they take on all of the money, right? So I'm like, that's fine. They actually got some players out of it. Mm-hmm. Your point, though, is valid. Now we have 20 to spend, but we have a third of the availability in terms of what's on the market.
Less than that, probably.
Maybe, yeah. But they don't get to pick wherever they want to pick. So I get that. Was it worth waiting for months and getting these 2 players versus just not keeping him, Kratz, and getting to spend $20 million? Or really 22. It should be 22 to be fair, because there's a $2 million buyout. So if he doesn't get picked up for 27, it's $22 million for this coming season, Kratz. Was it worth waiting for Luis Angel Acuna and Graham Pauley, who's a later round draft pick from last year that clearly they like, versus being able to spend a good chunk of change on a player for 2026 that now is a much shorter list of players available?
Oh, wait. Oh, we couldn't get anybody for the $20 million because there's just not a lot of guys left. No, they're not going to go get anybody. And to me, like, did they get I would say they came out ahead. Did they come out franchise changing ahead? No. Was it worth the risk? It's like playing poker right now. Like, is it worth going all in when there's $4 in the pot? What if somebody actually has a better hand than you? What if they got stuck with Luis Robert? He clearly was not motivated in Chicago. He was clearly coveted by teams or a team, the Mets last year, but they couldn't agree on what that price was going to be. Now the Mets went and got Marcus Semien, so they don't need a depth piece in Luis Angel Acuna. And so, yes, they came out on top. To me, the risk wasn't there. And no, if White Sox fans are saying, oh, yeah, we're going to spend that extra $20 million, I have a hard time believing outside of like Zach Gallen for 1 year is not even going to – he's not going to go there, but he's not going to cost that much. Like an impact.
Yes, he is.
No, he's going to cost way more than that. He's going to get the qualifying offer, and the qualifying offer is 22.7, I think, right now.
Oh, I thought you said he was going to get less. Yeah, he's going to cost more, but not necessarily per season. I mean, he might cost 20-something mil for next year, but you might have to add another year or two and then give an opt-out. Or not necessarily. I mean, we haven't heard a lot with his market yet. We all know the obvious. Zach Gallen is going to be playing on some type of contract that allows him to go back into the market next year. That's a definite. I'm way against you guys here on 2 points. One, I do think the White Sox are going to spend some money between now and spring training. I think they're going to go after someone.
Who? On what?
I don't know.
Who?
I agree, there's plenty but of pitching available.
Who?
We just talked about it. Could it be Gallen? Could it be Lucas Giolito, Chris Bassett, guys that are on the market that are in the, quote, mid-tier starting pitching?
Okay, that $20 million gets you one of those guys.
Okay. But you guys were saying, I don't know if they're going to spend it. I think they're going to spend it. I think they'll spend it on some pitching that they can then either flip at the deadline or helps. I mean, at the very least, of course, helps them in the first half. And then I do want to make sure we hit the Mets side of the equation here. He does get a change of scenery.
Mm-hmm. I like this move for the Mets. Listen, the Mets, this is like a no-lose situation for me for the Mets because they get a guy that's going to be motivated. It's the last year of his deal. He's going to want to hit the free agent market. He's going to want to really put up a good year in a new scenery, a place where he goes from a team that has lost 100 games 3 years in a row to a team that's trying to compete. He's got Lindor, Bichette, Soto. He's got some dudes around him now. I like this move for the Mets. Listen, 20. Although if you read this stuff, it's really going to cost them more than 20 because of the luxury tax and all that.
Right.
Whatever. The Mets don't care. Okay. But for the Mets, this is like it's only a 1 year thing. If they don't like him, they're like, see ya, Lou Bob. We'll see you next year somewhere else playing. But this to me, this is the Mets gave up nothing. Listen, they don't care about Acuna. Sorry, he was in AAA last year. Didn't do anything in the big leagues. Got a lot of hype because he's, Ronald Acuna's brother. But if you even look at his numbers in the minor leagues, they weren't outstanding. And then the pitcher, what was it?
Graham Pauley.
Truman Pauley. He was a 12th round pick last year.
Yeah. Truman Pauley.
Right? And look at his numbers. Listen, this ain't knocking anybody, but he has a walk problem. If in college in 70 innings you walk 48 guys, you got a walk problem. And then the year before, he had 41 walks in 44 innings. Right? It didn't go any better. He pitched in the Cape. He had 15 innings, 7 walks, right? So there's obviously a control problem mixed in there somewhere, which maybe the White Sox think they can fix, right? And he threw 4 innings this year in professional base, 4 1/3, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts.
Yeah.
So
they didn't
give up anything.
No.
And this was basically the White Sox wanted to get rid of Lou Bob, and the Mets were like, we'll take him for 1 year and see if we can turn him into something special. And if it works out, we'll sign him to a long-term deal. And if it doesn't, we say sayonara, and you hit the free agent trail.
And they're not going to pitch around him when he's with the Mets, Kratz. I mean, there's other guys for pitchers to circle on the scouting report before they start the game. They're not going to be like, guys, we can't let Lou Bob beat us. There was a time period where it's like there's nothing else there.
Okay. So you put his 33 stolen bases in the lineup right next to Juan Soto's 40. Like, okay, like now now there's value there. The biggest thing, and the only way that this works out like big time mega for the Mets is that they figure out how to get some starting pitching, because it doesn't matter how many people on offense they add, they don't get starting pitching. They're going to do the same thing they did last year. Can they unlock Luis Robert Jr.? Sure. I'm sure they can. You think the White Sox weren't trying to unlock him? No, they were trying. Maybe they didn't have the facilities. Maybe they didn't have the people that were able to like connect with him. Or maybe it's just going to be a free agent year for Luis Robert Jr. and he's going to say, I'm staying on the field. This guy, since I saw him come up to AAA, we were there when he got called up to Charlotte. I think he hit like 5 or 6 home runs in the series. I mean, it was everywhere. You were like, what is this guy? Just the same as Yoan Moncada when he first got called up and I saw him in AAA. Just the same as Eloy Jimenez. Something happened to all those guys that had supreme ceilings, and none of them panned out. I don't care what you say about Luis Roberts' one season. His career has not panned out yet. How do they unlock Luis Robert? That the Mets do it. They figure it out. This is a mega signing, and it will be huge cash for Luis Robert Jr. in free agency next year.
So let me read the lineup that Fangraphs has projected against righties. And sure, there might be a trade still for the Mets. And we all know they need pitching. They're going to go after pitching at this point. They need at least another starter. Lindor leadoff, Soto 2, Bichette 3, Polanco 4, Semien 5, Brett Beatty 6, Francisco Alvarez 7. They've got Luis Robert 8. And Carson Benj is their top prospect in the 9 spot.
Fine.
That's not bad.
It's a pretty good lineup.
That can contend. That's a decent lineup.
Still need some pitching.
No doubt.
But
we all agree with that.
And people in the chat, I want to say this also. Luis Robert Jr., if he was traded and Acuna turns into something and Paulie turns into something and they spend the $20 million like they said they're going to, and they get some decent trades those guys, whoever they sign for those, and they can trade them, then I'll applaud this trade from the White Sox side. But to me, they could have just released him in the offseason, got nothing, traded him a year ago or 2 years ago, and probably gotten more. Because 2 years ago, especially after 23, they knew they weren't going to be any good in 24. They could have traded him away and got a haul. And they held on to him because they were afraid he might turn into something. Well, now they trade him away. And imagine if he hits 30 and he goes 30-30 for the Mets this year and stays on the field.
But he had to get out of there.
I agree. That's why I say for the Mets, this is a no-brainer trade.
Yeah.
We'll give you our 40th best prospect and a guy who's not going to see the field for us. Good luck. Where's he going to play for the White Sox, Acuna?
You tell me. You know that team left and right.
I want to know. He's not playing third, Vargas. Not playing short, Colson Montgomery. Maidraw's going to be second. You got Sosa probably at first. Okay, where's he play? Where's his at-bats coming?
They traded for a utility guy. That's it.
They got him in center field.
It's not.
He's going to play.
It's not AJ.
Acuna's going to play center field.
They've got him in center field. He's fast as hell.
I know he's fast as hell, but
that might be the spot for him. You don't have to have as much of a bat. I mean, it's hard
to
find
be able to hit
center
a little
fielders.
bit to play center field.
I know, but he might be able to hit a little bit. Give him a little bit of chance. He's only 23.
Okay, Scott.
Give him a little bit of a chance.
I said,
he's got
if
speed.
Acuna turns into something and they spend the $20 million and the Paulie guy, then listen, this is a great trade for the White Sox.
They've got.
It can be. But I'm gonna have to see all the. That's a lot of ifs and buts, and we know about ifs and buts. You know, we all know about that.
If there's a place for him to go, right, it would be a team like the White Sox. The Mets did not have space for him, like you mentioned. With the White Sox right now, this is their starting outfield against righters, according to Fangraphs. They've got Brooks Baldwin in right, Andrew Benintendi, who's had severe injury issues, right, in left, and Luis Angel Acuna in center. And even just looking around the diamond, Acuna has developed as a utility player. So he can play a number of positions. Somebody gets hurt in the infield, Acuna can jump in there as well. So he's a utility guy. You picked up a utility guy who's making league minimum. It's not nothing, you know? So
it's a little bit.
We can talk more about it later. Yes, we just saw the breaking news on Cody Bellinger. So we're going to talk to our scheduled guest for 10 minutes. And then the show revolves around Cody. So let's get to our next guest. Baseball America's JJ Cooper joining us right now, also star of Hot Sheet every week, which you can catch on the Baseball America YouTube channel and on their podcast platforms. JJ, I'll let you announce to the world this very big day in Baseball America. I don't want to say history because it happens every year, but it is one of the most popular days for the publication. We're all staring at the top 100 prospects list.
Top 100 prospect list. I want to say first, AJ and Eric, I agree with you guys. Like, that's a great trade for the Mets. We'll see for the White Sox. But yes, Acuna, utility man. We'll see how it turns out. But yes, it's top 100 day. We're talking about guys who should turn out to be a little bit more than that. Top of this list, I would say, is as one of those, we have years where you're like, okay, you got to rank someone number one. You have other years where you have multiple guys that you would love to rank number one. I think a couple years ago when we had like Shohei Ohtani and Fernando Tatis Jr. and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like, okay, can we rank three guys one? Or Bobby Witt Jr. and Adley Rutschman and Julio Rodriguez. This year is a little bit closer to like that. Connor Griffin, Pirate shortstop, is our number one prospect on the list. But Kevin McGonigal, the Tigers shortstop, is our number two prospect. And there are a lot of years that he would be number one on this list. These are two guys who have very well-rounded skill sets. In the case of Connor Griffin, he could be a plus shortstop. He could be a plus or better defender and center. It's kind of where the Pirates want to play him. Power, speed, arm. And in McGonigal's case, you're talking about a guy who's one of the best hitting prospects we've seen in years. We put an 80 on his hit tool, which is the top of the scale. I think the last time we did that was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Several years ago now. So it's a very talented top of this list. And it's also the most shortstops we've ever had on it. 28 shortstops in the top 100. I think there's a little bit of that the success of the Corey Seagers, the Carlos Correas and all mean that shortstops are allowed to stay there. Ellie De La Cruz, you're allowed to stay there even if you're big and tall a little bit more often than you were in the past. And so maybe that's why it is. But the top four, as you see right there, on our top 10 are all shortstops. And Colt Emerson at number 7 as well, also a shortstop. Many more shortstops on this list after that as well.
When you put an 80 on a hit tool, I don't know that everybody understands Kevin McGonigal hit tool 80. When you said Vladimir Guerrero, that's like elite company. Doesn't that make his impact in the big leagues sooner than a Connor Griffin? Because Connor Griffin, regardless of what team he's playing on, it's, Connor Griffin's large. He's got to learn the position, how to move with that body. There's a little bit more question marks. So is McGonigal's hit tool what pushes him to the big leagues successfully before Connor Griffin, who has to iron out some things being such a big shortstop?
Yeah, I think McGonigal's a shorter guy, and I think there's a lot of value that for hitting ability because, again, it's shorter levers. He's got excellent plate coverage. The thing that McGonigal has and that we love to talk about is it's really hard to find kind of the weakness. Usually you see guys, and if they can hit for power, they're doing that by losing a little bit of contact skill to do that. If your guy is able to really kind of hit pitches in the zone, often there's a little bit of aggressiveness with that. Maybe you chase a little bit. McGonigal doesn't chase. He's among the best players in the minors at not chasing pitches outside of the strike zone, but it's not because he rests the bat on his shoulder. If it gets a pitch in the zone, he's actually very aggressive at hitting it. And then you look at it and say, okay, well, what about the power? Well, no, he has real premium power. He hits the ball extremely hard. We watched a home run he hit against Harlan Susanna last year. I think it was 101, coming in, and it was like 112 going back out. He hit it 440, 450 plus feet. There's real power here, but he does that while covering. There's not really a lot of holes at the plate. There's not a lot of, if you're a pitcher, there's not something that you can do consistently and get McGonigal out. And he also doesn't really have a whole lot of platoon problems either. He's a left-handed hitter who handles lefties pretty well, handles righties even better. But you look at it and say, yeah, I think that this is a guy who, as a hitter, is pretty close to big league ready right now. Yes, he may have a little bit of adjustment. Everyone does when they hit the majors. But there's not a whole lot for him to work on in the minors as a hitter. The question's going to be, shortstop, that's why Connor Griffin ranks number one. He's a premium, impactful shortstop defensively. McGonigal is someone who could maybe play shortstop, but the arm's a little thin. The range is a little short for short. Most scouts that we talk to think that he's going to be an above average or better defender at second. But as we all know, there's a second baseman named Gleyber Torres there for right now. So we'll see where McGonigal fits as a player on this Tigers roster, for opening day or a little bit later, because he's got to kind of find a defensive home.
Okay, I know Connor Griffin we can expect to see in 26. McGonigal, I think they've said 26. Weatherholt possibly in 26, which is great. What about, I mean, by the way, I love Jesus Made. That's an amazing name, by the way. I just want to say that's Walker Jenkins, Max Clark, some of these, the next guys, right? Are those guys 26 debuts more than likely, or are they maybe a year or two away?
I would say everyone in that top group except for Made. Made is very much on the Jackson Chourio plan. Jackson Chourio spent all of his age 18 season in Class A, got a bump up to Double-A for 6 games. In Made's case, he was in A-ball for all of his age 18 season and got a bump up to Biloxi for 5 games. He'll go to Biloxi to start the year. Chourio spent almost the entirety of that age 19 season in Double-A, got a little taste of Triple-A at the end of the year, and then was on the opening day roster the next year. I think Made's kind of on that path. Jenkins, I would expect to see Jenkins. The Twins are going to need him. They're, but Jenkins was in Triple-A at the end of last year. Clark was in Double-A, but at the same time, I think that both of those guys, you'll be later in the season, but you expect both of those in 26. Weatherholt, I would say the Arenado trade kind of clears the path for him to be in the big leagues as soon as opening day. Could be their third baseman, or he can also play second. Obviously, he's not going to play short because they got a Gold Glover there if Mason Wynn. But then you look also on this list, the 2 top pitchers on this list, Nolan McLean. You talked about that the Mets need pitching, and I agree they still need more starting pitching. But Nolan McLean has shown, okay, he's written an ink into the front of that rotation. And then Trey Savage, who's our other top pitcher in the top 10, has obviously already pitched successfully in the postseason. So those 2 guys are now firmly established in the big leagues. Most of this top 10 we would expect to graduate over the next 12 months. I would say at this time next year, if we're talking Jesus Made is probably the most likely of that top 10 group who won't, to still be around, still be prospect eligible.
Okay, JJ, that was my next question. Nolan McLean, Samuel Basayo, and Trey Savage have already proven they can play in the big league. Shouldn't they be higher on this list? Because, Savage did it in the biggest stage in the world in the playoffs, right? McLean was in a pennant race, came up, didn't lose anything. Basayo comes up, signs a big contract. He's locked in with the Orioles. So shouldn't those guys, because they're going to be there for sure, shouldn't they be like 1, 2, 3? Is it more potential than it is what we've already seen? Because, hell, if I had to bet on one guy on this list to be pretty good, I'd probably take Savage, who's 10.
I will say, though, this is where with Connor Griffin, this is where I don't want to go overboard. I don't want to put something unfair on these guys. But you look at the history. I just did a study of this, of all of our top 100 prospects and every major leaguer who was in the major leagues, debuted from 1990 to present. And the Connor Griffins of the world, the guys who rank number 1, number 2, number 3, you can expect him. It will be a disappointment if he's not like a 10-year big league veteran starter, the 25, 30, 40 WAR player. If you look at where Connor Griffin is right now, I'm not going to tell you that he's going to be Bobby Witt Jr., but it is that kind of development path we're seeing. And let's just say that he's 75% of Bobby Witt Jr., right? That would still be one of the better players in the major leagues. I think with Kevin McGonigal, we're also talking within that range. Yes, these are pitchers who have already established themselves in the big leagues, but they're also pitchers. And so I think that we just know that with even great pitchers, you always have obviously a higher injury risk there. We're always a little bit more hesitant about pushing a pitcher too high because the chances of a Connor Griffin or Kevin McGonigal missing a season and a half out of their next 6 seasons is pretty unlikely. It's happened, but it's pretty rare for position players. With pitchers, unfortunately, it's there's decent chance, decent odds that at some point you may have a serious injury that's going to cost you significant time.
You were talking about how the top 4 are shortstops. The top 3 are all cold weather kids. When I say cold weather, from high schools that played in the cold. Have you ever seen something like that? Obviously, a guy from the north, I live pretty much 15 minutes from where McGonigal went to high school. And is this something that is normal? Because like you said, it's about it's about potential, and there's potential in there. And sometimes cold weather kids don't get the same, the warm weather guys are already they're there. Their abilities there. And then the other guys kind of come on late.
So I think that is one way that we could talk a lot of ways about how baseball environment has changed for the worse, over the last 25 years. But I think this is an example of how it's changed for the better, right? Connor Griffin, the Mississippi kid, that used to be a really scary demographic for that. And like you said, McGonigal and Weatherholt are both guys who come from really cold weather. That used to be that you were not going to get enough playing time against quality competition to really develop, right? That was going to be a problem. Nowadays, Kevin McGonigal, JJ Weatherholt went to college, but even before then, these guys are facing 95 plus on the showcase circuit in the summer. They're facing guys from all around the country in the summer, which means that instead of it being something where the first time that Kevin McGonigal makes his pro debut, he steps in, he's like, what is this? I haven't seen any pitching like this before. He's seen it now. And I think that combined with, I would say also like kind of the improved instruction. We've seen this with the Wisconsin kids. We used to never see any high school kids come out of Wisconsin, and now we see a ton of them. It's because I think that these areas you can really develop, and you can also then hit the showcase circuit. You're not just playing your high school competition during the spring. You're facing the best players in the country during the summer. And that both gives teams a higher comfort level with you, but it also gives those players an ability to kind of develop at a faster pace because they face top competition.
I saw Connor Griffin when he was a junior and he reclassed to being a senior. Obviously, the makeup's off the chart, but one thing that you hit on was Mississippi kids. I worked for the Red Sox when they had Blaze Jordan. I think it was Blaze Jordan. Mm-hmm. And he was a number 2, second rounder for the Red Sox, had a lot of prospect status to him. And a scout told me, hitters from Mississippi never work out. So is there fear there with the Connor Griffin? And this is a scout. And I'm not saying scouts know everything, but they're working on history. Is there a fear there? And can Connor Griffin debunk those fears because of doing one thing? Is there something he can do to debunk that fear?
I would say that was that's funny, like even as late as last spring, I was hearing scouts refer to looking at that shortstop class, well, they're better hitters than Connor Griffin was. Because when Connor Griffin was in high school, there were real hit tool concerns. He had a little bit of an arm bar, and then he went off in that offseason and really worked on it. And as soon as spring training, it became pretty clear, this is a better hitter than we thought he was. As much as I just talked about Kevin McGonigal being the 8 hit tool, Connor Griffin is the guy who hit for a higher average, low A, high A, double A, and he had hit well over 320 last year. He kind of answered a lot of those questions. There are those concerns because, especially, I think a lot of it comes down to the quality of competition you're seeing in the spring, the difficulty of evaluating those players if they come out of high school. There are not a whole lot of success stories out of that. But I do think that Connor Griffin has already showed that the season he had last year, it doesn't mean he's a big leaguer, a successful big leaguer already. Obviously, it doesn't do that. But he did show, he started off in low A, and for a guy coming off that background, even as a first-round pick, if he'd have spent the first half season or even 4 months in low A and then played his way to high at the end of the season, that would have been a very successful season. And instead, he was the best player in that league, so clearly the best player that they had to get him out of there in just a couple of months. They go to high A. He's now younger than anyone he's facing, and he's the best player in that league by far, and they have to get him out of there. And then he's in double A on a playoff team. There was a great playoff series where it was Erie versus Altoona, McGonigal versus Griffin, and Connor Griffin was the best player on the field in that series as well. Every level he went to, he just kept improving, kept standing out. And I would say that everything else you could feel pretty comfortable about. This is like what Bobby Witt Jr. had coming out of high school. You loved the tools. The question was, how much was he going to hit? And then I remember that pandemic spring training that they had, that weird spring training in June. And they came to the realization, Bobby Witt Jr. is probably the best player we have in big league camp for this. We're not going to bring him out. We're not going to break camp with him, but he can hold his own. We saw that with Connor Griffin as early as last spring training. That's the tricky part that the Pirates going to have. Yes, they can hold him back. He just got to double A at the end of the year. They can hold him back, send him back to double A, send him to triple A to start the year. But the reality of it is they're not going to have any shortstop. And then, you can say O'Neal Cruz, but they're not really going to have a center fielder in camp who's better than him. So the challenge is going to be, do you send him out, even though if you just at the end of spring training have an honest evaluation of it, he's going to be their best defensive shortstop, and he's going to be the most athletic shortstop, and he's probably going to be the best hitting shortstop they have in big league camp.
Okay, by the way, I just want to debunk the Mississippi thing because Rafael Palmeiro, Will Clark, Jake Magnum, Mitch Moreland. I mean, there's a whole
College
slew of
guys,
dudes.
yes. High school guys, no. That's the problem.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I'm just saying that
Because
some
they
of these,
get, Hunter Renfro, another one. There's a lot of
Hunter
college
Renfro.
guys.
There's been some pretty good dudes that have come out of. That was just Mississippi State. I didn't even look at Mississippi. So, I mean, there's some interesting. Yeah. Anyways, we'll move a little bit away from that. Who is the biggest riser on this list? Who are the biggest people that kind of came out of nowhere and shot up the ranks to surprise people?
I would say that we have Carter Jensen, number 11 on this list, the Royals catcher. And that is an example, AJ, of what you were talking about. So this is an example of a guy who did it and then did it at the big league level. Jensen kind of came into the year as a solid prospect, but then really just kind of set the world ablaze in the minor leagues as a catcher who both showed that he can handle the job defensively, but also could hit like a middle of the order bat. Futures game, he had one of the best BPs we've seen at the Futures game in several years, I would say, which really kind of, my jaw dropped a little bit watching that. Came up at the end of the season for the Royals and really kind of showed that he kind of could hold his own, didn't look out of place at the big league level. I think that this is kind of a perfect situation for him and the Royals. Obviously, they still have Salvador Perez, but I think that they were a little bit more comfortable trading Fermin to that deal to the Padres because they know that they've got someone here who can kind of do that job share with Perez as Perez gets older, where it kind of takes on more and more of that role. Maybe kind of even extend Salvi Perez's career a little bit because he won't have to have as much wear and tear. Can really, is a solid catcher defensively, but most catchers nowadays, a lot of guys, it's like, okay, you're going to bat him 7th, 8th, or 9th. This is a guy who could bat much more in the middle of your lineup, real power here, and also showed some hitting ability. And we just every time we kept talking to people, we just kept moving him up. And we turned around and it's like, oh, he's the second best catcher on this list, only behind Basayo.
Which teams are the most
Royals.
Represented? Because as a player, you'd look at it and you go, oh, I remember playing against that guy. I didn't like that guy. As a fan, you're like, Chicago. No. Okay. So which teams are the most represented on your 100 list, top 100 list?
Speaking of Chicago, we do have a lot of a lot of White Sox on this list this year. But at the same time, I'm doing a quick count right now to make sure I tell it right. But the other one that's very well represented is, we were just talking about the Mets earlier. The Mets have 6 players on this top 100. Now, it's kind of a little bit of a combo too. We've got the McLean still qualifies. We got Jonah Tong, another. There's definitely pitchers on this list for the Mets. But then you've got also a guy like Carson Benj who could, by the end of the year, let's see, he got to AAA at the very end of last year, but could be an impactful bat down the road for them as well. So there's a nice blend there. The Guardians have 6 players on the top 100 as well. And then, like I said, the White Sox also have 6. So those are our leaders. We've had years where one team has 7, 8, 9. This year is a little bit more spread around. Everyone has someone on it, other than the Astros, which in the Astros case, they can point out, hey, we had a guy, but then we didn't because they traded Jacob Melton to the Rays in a recent deal. But this is the graphic I was talking about earlier. Like, when you look at a Connor Griffin, you look at a Kevin McGonigal here, superstar is 50+ WAR. If you're a 50+ WAR player for your career, you're in Hall of Fame consideration. That dark green there is guys who are like long-term. AJ fits in that star category. If you've got over 20
that was my
WAR
comment,
AJ.
Career, I was never ranked. So you
I know. I was going to say, you are actually one of those greens you see on that far right in the unranked. You're one of those. Honest to goodness, you are legitimately part of that contribution. Because we miss on some. We missed on Jose Altuve. He wasn't a top 100. We missed on Paul Goldschmidt, who moved really quickly. That's one I have regret. Robinson Cano, another guy there. There are guys we miss on. But the thing that stands out here is if you look at that top group there, right? That dark green goes over 50%. If you are a top 3 prospect on the Baseball America Top 100, and this goes back to 1990. This is everyone who ranked from 1990. We stopped at 22 because the guys past that haven't had enough time to build up, their careers yet. But if you look at that, in the past, I'm not going to say that Connor Griffin will, or Kevin McGonigal will, or J.J. Weatherholt will, but if you look at past history, top 3 prospects more often than not end up being big league stars. That's why you do not see these guys pretty much ever get traded, is because teams, these are not the players you trade. These are the players that stick around throughout the entirety of their, until they hit free agency, or you extend them and then they end up being the Joe Mauers. They end up being the Mike Trouts. They end up being the guys who you turn around and they have 15 plus years with one club, because these are the guys, these are the foundational players that you build teams around.
JJ, over your shoulder, you have Leo DeVries. I'm going to say that wrong. I know that's
DeVries.
right. DeVries?
I think so.
Yeah.
DeVries. Anyways, it's over your shoulder, right? Wasn't he number 2 or 3? He got traded, and now he's not even in the top 10. So that trade really killed him. So I don't know what you guys are doing at Baseball America, but that trade
I think
killed
he
him.
got to 4. He got to 4, so he never got high enough to be that top 3. But yes, he was close.
Okay.
He's dropped a little bit. He's 12th right now. So, which I would say is more of other guys moving up than him down. But yeah, so and that's rare though. We've seen him get traded. Last guy like that I can remember was Addison Russell being traded from the A's to the Cubs back in 2014, 2015, right around there. It's rare. It does happen every now and then. Paul Konerko, I would say another one that was traded while he was kind of an elite prospect, but then we're going back to the 90s at this point.
You're going back to my time, so take it easy, JJ, because I played against and with Paul Konerko. So let's take it easy now.
Now he was a catcher, but then he saw you and he's like, "Well, I can't catch anymore. Got to move to first base."
He was never a catcher. Let's establish that right now. He was never going to be a catcher. He couldn't squat. Scott.
Hey, one knee may have helped him.
Couldn't squat
At all?
No, he can't squat. He can't get down into the squat.
Like he can't even attempt it?
He gets about halfway.
He could hit.
And he can't go any
So
lower.
he has no flexibility.
No.
Wow.
And they were like, "You're not a catcher." He's like, "Yeah, I'll go play first base, hit 400 homers, and have a nice career."
Worked out.
Yeah, worked out.
Maybe that's Ethan Salas. Where's he? Is he on the list?
He's on the list, but he did move down. We still got to see him hit. You got to hit. Even as a catcher, you got to hit.
A little bit.
Some.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Well, JJ, good stuff. I want to just do one more plug here. Actually, we'll let you take up the whole cam because we're a little blurry. So why don't you just tell everyone where they can find it, the whole deal, how it's put together, because obviously we're not giving everyone the whole top 100. There's a way to do that.
But baseballamerica.com, check it out. We've got so much, and we're going to keep coming out with more top 100 coverage. If you're wondering who could be the guys on the list next year, we've got multiple stories about that. If you're wondering, we got also the Baseball America YouTube channel, and we'll be talking about more on the Hot Sheet show next week as well. So podcast, the Baseball America podcast feed. Any way you want it, we have more top 100 prospect coverage than you could possibly consume. And by the way, that's in addition to all the top 30 prospects for all 30 organizations that we have ranked, scouting reports, tools, grades, all that. International, you want to know what your team signed, International Signing Day, full evaluations, full breakdowns for all 30 organizations for that. College top 25, preseason top 25 is up, and capsules on all the top teams in college, draft rankings, everything over at baseballamerica.com.
Boom. There you go. JJ, good stuff. We have a little full screen too on the way out, but we appreciate you. We'll see you next week on Hot Sheet. Of course, thank you, JJ. And yes, Hot Sheet, we'll talk more about this. It's live every single week. Actually, keep in mind that we're going to change up the day, so we'll let you know more about that. But for now, Mondays, 3:30 Eastern time, it's a live show. It is everything you need to know on a kind of bigger picture scale. And then, of course, there are great Baseball America shows and podcasts to catch up on that get more granular on each topic, like college baseball, etc. Be right back. Nobody likes a bloated cell phone bill. It can consume you. It can take over. It can be very annoying. So I know that 2025 ended Kratz, and that's when you have your end of year sales, but there actually is still one sale that is running until the end of the month.
Mint Mobile. They still have their 50% off their unlimited premium wireless offer that you got to go and get and take advantage of, because it's not necessarily going to be around all the time.
And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Quit overspending on wireless with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. Plans start at $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Hey, we're back. Our next guest is coming soon, and when we ask for players, we are going to bring them on right away. So Cedric Mullins is going to join us very soon. Yes, we saw the timing. Hilarious how we start the show, we talk about Luis Robert, and then right when we're about to enter the guest world. Cody Bellinger signs. I will say it's probably the least surprising news of the entire year. We knew everything. We knew about the relationship. We knew about the money to an extent, everything. Like, there's a couple details that I do want everyone to stick around for, including the front-loadedness of the contract. So we are going to blow that out and really talk about it. We're going to cover it ourselves. Derek Levandowski from Pinstripe Territory is going to join us soon as well. So we are reshuffling the guest order just for you. But for now, let's get to our next guest on FT.
Battle up.
Hey, this guy knows the AL East very well. Cedric Mullins joining us right now and newly signed with the Rays this offseason. Cedric, great to have you on the show here. We appreciate the time. How's the offseason, especially the process of signing actually a while ago? You didn't have to wait to find out where your spring training home was going to be, right?
Yeah, we knocked that out pretty soon. So of course the family was excited, and I'm excited for the opportunity out in Tampa. Like you said, staying in the AL East, always fun playing out there. It's going to be a blast.
What was it like? So take me through it. I mean, how did you have a lot of conversations with other teams? Were there multiple offers thrown your way? How did you end up with the Rays? What did they say that kind of got the job done for you?
Yeah, it was really about opportunity and playing time. Had conversations with a couple other teams. Just might not have been the right fit for what I was looking for at the time, but Tampa definitely presented that to me. And just really being able to be myself, play my game, go back to certain things that I've always done really well and take advantage.
I need you to put yourself in your shoes, but a year ago. Had the Rays made the same exact offer and you had to play outside in Florida for the entire season, would you have been like, I'm not trying to sweat that much? Would it have changed your decision?
Yeah, it possibly could have. I saw what that schedule looked like for them. It was tough. They went through it for sure last year.
And is that something that when you go into it, you're like, do you need to talk to the Rays? Like, hey, we got the roof up, right? Like, is that something, or do they come to you and like, hey, we're going to offer you this, and the umbrella is up, you don't have to worry about it?
Yeah, that actually kind of fronted the conversation. It was kind of funny. I did ask them. I was like, "What's going on with the home field stadium?" They said, "Oh, it will be back together, ready to go." So that was a quick little chuckle between us. But again, like I said, really good organization that has brought the best out of a lot of guys coming through, and I've been able to see that over the years. So just trying to replicate what I've been able to do in some really successful years coming up.
Cedric, you've been in the AL East for most of your career. You went from obviously to the Mets for a little short period here. What was it like, though, when you were with the Orioles your whole career, and then they called you in and said, we're sorry, we love you, we're not having the year we expected, and you're going to the New York Mets? How does it hit you? Because I always say the first time you get traded, the first time you switch teams is by far the hardest.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I've been with the Orioles since being drafted back in 2015, so that's 10 years with the same organization. And yeah, it hit pretty hard, just having to uplift your entire life, especially out in New York where things can get hectic just on a day-to-day basis. So it was definitely a lot of changes and adjustments that had to be made, along with, trying to perform at your best.
Did you feel like you had to be somebody else? Anybody can be like, wow, you're a big league vet. Like, you just had to be who you are. But as many times as I moved, AJ moved quite a few, but not as many as me. But you guys were impact players. Did you feel like you had to be somebody you're not? Because at the time you moved, like, stuff starts barking a little bit. Like, it's not like you start the beginning of the offseason, you're like, I'm fresh to go, put my best foot forward. Did you have to feel like, or did you feel like you had to be somebody that you weren't in that moment when you went to the Mets?
In some instances, yeah. There were a bunch of talented guys where I didn't feel like I had to, try to come in and be something that I completely wasn't. I was really just trying to, complement what the team already had, and that might have put a little pressure on me just to try to do a little too much for what was already a good team that, just kind of fell off at the end.
Cedric, I know at some point there was some hamstring barking, I think, right? Was that a factor, do you think, in your mind? I know players don't like to use that. And also tell me if I'm off, but I'm trying to think back. Last year already feels like 5 years ago. But was that a factor at all for you at some point during the season?
It was kind of early. I forget what month specifically, but I was still with the Orioles at the time. And it was a 10-day stint. Something just kind of tweaked in there. Might have been more of a crampy type feeling. But outside of that, the legs felt pretty good. It was just a matter of finding opportunities to run. And that's what I'm looking forward to do, just being more aggressive, continuing to be more aggressive on the base pass, continuing to try to do damage out there.
Talk about the end of that season. Talk about how it was going for you guys in the clubhouse. You come in from the outside and you're like, okay, like I get to watch Juan Soto, Brandon Nimmo. I get to watch Pete Alonso every single day. Did you know that the pitching was where it was when you got there? Or was it something where you were there for a week and you're like, we got to score like 7 runs to win this game? Not dissimilar to where you were in Baltimore.
Yeah, I didn't really know kind of where pitching was at that point. Like you said, after a week, 2 weeks, it was pretty evident pitching was struggling. We had to try to come back late in a lot of games, and when it comes in waves like that, it's tough to battle back. And every once in a while, it would have those moments where our arms were dominating and the offense was struggling to get it going, and when you just have that roller coaster of back and forth, it's tough to get momentum going for, especially a playoff run.
Cedric, what went wrong in Baltimore? You guys made the playoffs 23-24. Everyone's like, the Orioles, the Orioles, the Orioles. What happened last year? I mean, Brandon Hyde gets fired, right? It was like a perfect storm of everything went wrong. Did you have a feeling of anything that changed in the clubhouse or among the team? Because it just didn't work.
Yeah, and amongst the group, I don't think there were too many guys that were coming off as negative, coming to the field every single day. We had a positive attitude. We were, really just trying to find a way to piece together some wins to create momentum. And during spring training, we came across a lot of injuries especially on the pitching side, for guys that we were expecting to have really strong years, and they got cut before they even began just because of injuries. And that kind of put a lot of pressure on everyone else to try to pick up some slack, whether it be offense, whether it be pitching, whether it be guys that got picked up, just from the expectations of us going out there and dominating. But it hit us. It hit us hard.
All right, you were there through the lean years to the years when they started calling up all these prospects. We just talked to JJ Cooper of Baseball America. You saw it. You saw it firsthand. And now all of a sudden you see, I'll take you to Adley Rutschman comes up, Gunnar Henderson comes up, and you're starting to see these guys. Did you ever sit there and say, man, I would love it if they would trade some of these dudes I don't know to add to the pieces that would then push us over the edge, push us to the point where we're now year in and year out a World Series contending team with these young superstar prospects?
Yeah, you look at a situation like that and you think we're coming up on our window. We don't know how long that's actually going to be, but it's here. It's here. It's here. It's right now. And for example, like when we had Corbin Burns dominated that year, couldn't get him back. The question was, how do you replace that? That was up to the front office to try to figure that out. And certain decisions might be questioned in hindsight, but they made their decisions at the time. And you sit there and you say, regardless of what they have going on, I need to continue to perform at what I believe to be my peak to give us the best chance every single day, regardless.
All right, you had a 30-30 season. Luis Robert just got traded to the Mets. Everybody talks about, back in 2021, Cedric Mullins did this. Back in 2023, Luis Robert did this. How hard is it to try to recapture that season? Because Luis Robert's going to try to do that as he's about to go to free agency. And how hard is it to say, okay, I may never do that again if all I'm trying to do is chase that season and not be the best I can be today?
Yeah, I definitely felt that after that season. I was chasing that. And for me to know myself as not being the most powerful guy out there on the field, I do know I have some pop, but I remember that season and I had home runs in bunches. Like it was almost abnormal feeling that year. And, but the swing was just clicking and good things were happening when I was, just being myself, staying short to the ball, using all fields, and then the power will come into play when there was a mistake made. So just getting back to that athleticism that I had in that swing is really what I'm aiming for this season and beyond. It just felt like things got out of hand in terms of how I was looking at metrics and how I wanted the swing to look and things of that nature, and it took away from what made that season great.
Said you're now on the Rays, and they have a thing there. They do it the Rays way. Now you got to play against the Rays your entire career. Are you excited to see what they figured out that no other organization has figured out? Because it seems like everyone that goes there just miraculously becomes like a 10 WAR player. So I can't wait for you to come back on at the end of the year after you have an unbelievable year and say, well, the Rays way was blank.
I say, hey, when I come back, I probably won't give out their secrets. I need to hang on to those. But I'm excited. Yeah, just like you said. Every time we faced them, their pitching gave me trouble, and I'm going to sit there and ask to their face, "What did you do to me?" Like they had an approach that was very successful, and of course, I'd have my successes here and there, but they were pretty consistent, and they were mixing and matching me up in different ways. So it wasn't like I was facing the same guy every time. From top to bottom, they had good arms. So it was just a matter of me trying to make my adjustments. But yeah, I'm excited for what's going on this year with them.
Again, you played against the Rays your entire career, being in the AL East for almost all your career. Every year, people overlook the Rays. You're now on the Rays. The Blue Jays almost won the World Series. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Red Sox are the Red Sox. And you came from the Orioles. You know what they have there and what they have coming. How did the Rays finish this year? I mean, what's your outlook? Because, again, you know this division so well. And every year we're like, oh, the Jays, the Rays, or the Jays, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Rays. They're the Rays, right? They always figure it out. So how confident are you that this year, again, the Rays can figure it out? And how nice is it going to be when you go back to Baltimore and you get a standing ovation and you get a hit to win the game?
Yeah, that's going to be a fun moment. Yeah, to that point, just facing Tampa year after year after year, they find a way to compete, and I think that's really where the grit and where they, go in the standings each year is where it comes from. I mean, they pick guys that no one across the league would know, but they go out there and compete their tail off every single day and put results together. I think that's really what it's all about. You can have your big name guys, but from a team aspect, they find a way to really click and gel and mesh and work really well together out there every single day.
Cedric, this was awesome. Thank you for stopping by during the offseason here. We should be able to catch you during spring training too as we're putting our schedule together. So congrats on the deal, and we'll see you then.
Appreciate it, fellas. Oh, yeah, looking forward to seeing y'all.
Thanks. Same here. That's Cedric Mullins from the Rays. We'll be right back. Breaking news during the show. Cody Bellinger and the Yankees are married again. 5-year contract, $162.5 million. It's very front-loaded. We're learning all of the details as we go here. It includes a $20 million signing bonus, and the first 2 seasons of the contract are $32.5 million. That's in addition to the signing bonus. The signing bonus, for context, is included in that total number that we learned, right? It's not an additional signing bonus. I know some people were asking about that. So it's $162.5 million during the course of the contract, but he gets 20 plus 32.5 a year. So when you add that up, the first 2 years of the contract contain $85 million. That's more than half of the contract in 2 years versus what it looks like in the last 3 years. That is called front loaded. And that makes sense because he should be better in those first 2 years than he is in the last 3 years. Well, I mean,
and how much does he make those first 2 years?
$85 million.
Oh, how much does Aaron Judge make a year?
You tell
40.
me. What's
40.
the exact number? 40. Is it 40?
So Cody Bellinger, the first 2 years, is making more than Aaron Judge.
Correct. Well, Judge signed years ago, and he went back to his team. That's
the
market.
Not
for
saying
you.
here, there, or anywhere. I'm just saying for these next 2 years, Yankee fans, Cody Bellinger is making more than Aaron Judge.
Aaron's a little bigger than Cody, so I don't think he's going to go up to him and say, "Ha." But for Cody, he can opt out.
Great for Cody.
Well, Kratz, you're stronger than him, but I don't know about Cody. You're stronger than Judge. But anyway, I don't know if Cody is going to end up opting out again. None of us know. But if he puts seasons together like he did last year, he can go back into the market again. He's done this a lot. He's a guy that's been attached to opt-outs. He's got it not after year 1, after year 2 and year 3. If we have a lockout that takes out a season, he gets the opt-out pushed back. That's actually language that's pushed in there or put in there. So what do you think about the deal that we basically already knew publicly for a while now?
I mean, isn't this what the Yankees offered like weeks ago?
Yes.
And it came out that it was this. I mean, I think he got like $2 million more. Wasn't it 160 was the rumor being? So he could have done this weeks ago.
Well,
and then
got 2.5
But
more.
there's one thing. One of the main suitors was who?
The Mets,
And who'd they just trade for last night?
Luis Robert.
Okay, so then what was the other team? The Blue Jays?
And
They
some
weren't
people
probably
were-
comfortable paying him $40 million a year.
Right.
So they said, okay. And then Bellinger didn't really have any other suitors that I can find that anyone mentioned. So he took the best deal available to him. And good for him. $162.5 million is a lot of millions.
He wanted 7 years, or his team wanted 7 years.
I
like
wanted
his
10 years. I never
representation.
got it.
Right. And Kratz, I mean, he put together a great year this past season for the Yankees. 125 OPS plus, hundreds league average, 5.1 baseball WAR. I mean, a 5-win player is really good. I mean, the park didn't hurt. His OPS at home was 909. His OPS on the road was 715. He just fit really well with this squad. He also improved his numbers significantly against left-handed pitching. I mean, he was one of the better lefty hitters against lefty pitching this past season. So he had a really strong year. It's a good marriage. Keep it running.
Absolutely. I mean, we've said it the whole time that I think the value is not just in the fact that he had 29 homers. I think everybody on the team's home runs spiked from Ben Rice to Jazz Chisholm. You know, Anthony Volpe had, I think he had 19 homers. Like, the home runs are going to come. To me, for Cody to be the most valuable to a team, it's going to not be if he hits 30 homers. It's going to be if he puts together good at-bats around Judge, wherever that is. If they're going to settle him in behind Judge, he's got to be able to put together good at-bats to be able to knock Judge around when they're walking him 100 to 150 times. And it's being a pest in that lineup, but then also giving the Yankees some flexibility, not just this year, where he will not play center field. Trent Grisham will play center field because Trent Grisham's making the qualifying offer, $22 million. But where he can play left, Ben Rice catches some games. He's going to move away from first. Now they don't have to find another first baseman. Cody can fill in at first. And then most likely when Trent Grisham leaves next year, he can slot in center field. Does he play the entirety of the rest of his contract, last 4 years in center field? I don't know. We don't know. We don't know where that's going to be. But I think this was, as much as Yankee fans, I think, started sweating a little bit. This was my lock, and then my second lock was Bregman back to the Red Sox. Well, clearly my second lock missed. This one hit, and I'm glad for both because he had success there, and he doesn't have to play the opt-out game, but he can if he wants to.
Remember, 1 year ago, he was traded from the Cubs to the Yankees, and the Yankees took on 90% of that contract, but the Cubs had to eat $5 million. It wasn't an easy contract to swap, right? It was 2 years, $52.5 million left, and 5 of that was covered. So the Yankees were taking on 2 years, $47.5 million. My point is that his stock soared this past season with the Yankees, especially within the Yankees, right? I mean, he was not looked at across baseball as a superstar. It was looked at as someone who had MVP moments and then had low points, had shoulder issues, had inconsistencies with swing, but really has become an all-around player and had a great year for New York.
Yeah. What's not to like? What does this
Did
do,
his
though,
stock
for
soar? Did his stock soar?
I just think he had 2 solid years back-to-back. And actually, he didn't really. He had 1 year back-to-back.
This year was really good, and it was a perfect match. So, yeah, I would say his stock went up
Well, it
quite a
soared
bit.
because he was able to handle New York. He played well in New York, and therefore, for the Yankees, his stock soared. Right?
Okay.
Again, what were the other suitors? That's the thing.
That's my thing.
Right?
No,
We don't know the others.
I'm pushing back, but the Mets were definitely interested, and there
But
were
not
other
at
teams
this number,
interested.
because if they would have been in this number, they would have got it done.
No doubt.
Knowing Stevie Cohen, if there's 2 teams that are close, he'll just say, here's 20 extra million, go get it done, right? He didn't do that.
They wanted a shorter term deal. We'll find out maybe what that looked like, but it was probably 2, maybe 3 years.
Okay.
You get a mini version of the Bo Bichette offer that goes
What
his
does
way.
this do for Jason Dominguez? What does this do for Spencer Jones? What does this do for some of those Yankee hype prospects that we've been hearing about for so long? Yeah, I guess we
One
can
of
ask
them's gotta
Derek when
go.
he comes on.
Trade one of them
One of
for
them's gotta
Freddie
go.
Peralta.
Okay, which one?
Oof.
Which one goes?
Yeah,
Which
one
one goes or which one would we trade?
either or. You choose. You tell me which one should go, which one is going to go.
If I'm the Brewers, I take Spencer Jones. I think you've seen what
Same.
Jason Dominguez can do, has done, whatever. And can you afford to have him hit right-handed? Or does he become a platoon? Obviously, you don't know what Spencer Jones is going to do, but you're going to say, I get it. He strikes out a third of the time in the minor leagues. We're putting him in the big leagues. He's going to steal 20-plus bases for us. He's going to play the outfield really well. I mean, he's a center fielder. I'm not saying he's going to play center field there, but then you're going to have Churio, him in the outfield. And to me, it's got to be Spencer Jones and somebody. Spencer Jones and another piece. And I don't think the Brewers will come off somebody that's not a big league pitcher. Like it has to be a big league pitcher because they're getting rid of Freddie. It would be Spencer and a big league pitcher who's ready to go.
Is that Will Warren, Schlittler?
Not Schlittler.
Not Schlittler.
Maybe Will Warren, but I don't think they're not doing
Luis Heel?
Jones.
What about a Luis Heel?
Yeah, but then you can't have Jones and any of those guys in a deal. That's too much for 1 year
Is it,
of a
though?
player. Yes.
What?
Okay.
I'm telling
Freddie-
you that's too much.
Spencer Jones has proven zero.
I know, but that's too much for industry standards. I'm just telling you. Also,
Okay, so then why wouldn't you throw Dominguez and one of those guys?
it's too much.
Okay.
All right.
You're going to
And
get
you're
one
not
of
getting
those.
Freddie Peralta.
You're getting one of those guys in there, and then someone on the.
Okay, where's Jason Dominguez
A-ball
play
level.
this year?
Oh, let me answer the question. Kratz did his. For me, I'm trading Dominguez potentially in a deal for Freddie Peralta or Nick Pivetta or Mackenzie Gore. Yeah, I mean, there's a logjam, and for me, Jones has more upside. Jones is much more of an enigma. He might strike out way too much, or he could become a star. With Dominguez, do we think he's going to be a star?
We can ask Derek. I don't know.
No, you can't just trade who you want. It's the team. Who does the team want? That's why I'm saying Spencer Jones is going to be who the Brewers want. The Brewers don't want Jason Dominguez. Right now he's proven that he's not the guy. To me, I think the Brewers would want Spencer Jones. If I'm like, you can't just be like, yeah, we want Freddie Peralta and we'll give you Jason Dominguez. You can have him.
Here's the thing with Dominguez. Dominguez didn't play in the postseason.
Okay.
That tells you what the Yankees think about him.
So you
he
think
pinch
the
run
stock
once?
is too low to be a
Something like
centerpiece
that.
in a deal? I think it's
No,
still
not
high
if you
enough.
throw in a Schlittler.
You can't do that.
Okay, well,
Schlittler-
you get Freddie Peralta.
Schlittler was
Who's better, Schlittler or
Insane.
Freddie Peralta?
Schlittler's upside is pretty damn
That's
good.
not what I asked you. Who's
Yeah.
better?
I'm not trading Schlittler if I'm the Yankees.
Okay.
It's
Well, what if
no
what if the
chance.
Brewers say that's we have to have him to get the deal done?
Fuck off. I'm going to the Padres for Pivetta. I'm going to the Nationals for Mackenzie Gore. I'm going down the line for other guys I can't think of right now. Sorry.
And every team goes, we want Schlittler. Do you trade him or you just stick with him?
No, I'm not trading him.
Okay. So what if they say we have to have Spencer Jones and Will Warren?
I still think that's a little bit high. I do.
Okay.
It's one season of a player. Look at the deals in
Mackenzie
the past.
Gore. They say we want Schlittler or we want Spencer Jones and Will Warren.
No.
You're getting Freddie Peralta for one season. That automatically puts you an extra win in a playoff series. Because obviously, I don't think the Yankees are going anywhere if Cole doesn't come back to be Cole, Rodon doesn't come back to be Rodon. But the beginning of the season, you need somebody to step up to be that number one. Freddie is that number one. And then in the postseason, you have those three guys starting your first three games of every series. I don't care if the Yankees strike out a lot or not their lineup. That is a legit starting rotation to have to face twice in a 7-game series.
Now, Dominguez, Jones, and Will Warren, plus another prospect or two that is less developed for Tarek Skubal.
But you only get 1 year.
I don't give a shit.
Oh, now the rules change,
no,
Kratz.
they don't change. They're different
Now, but
players.
no, it's only 1 year though. I'm not giving up that for 1 year.
How
Skubal is
bad
different from
do
than
they
Freddie.
want him? How bad do they want him?
But the point that AJ started with here is that they now have
A serious logjam in the outfield.
a logjam. So what do
Which
you
is
Is
do?
Ben
good.
Rice their first baseman, or is Cody Bellinger their first baseman?
Well, could be a little bit of both, and it gives you versatility. But for now, it's Ben. They want to let Ben run with it.
Okay.
Cody's
Hey,
going to
they're
be
left-hand
mostly on the
heavy, man.
outfield.
There's a lot of left-handed hitters in this.
They
mix
also
now.
have a belief. They also have a belief that Ben Rice can catch in the big leagues.
Well,
So I'm not saying
I
it's not a
believed
bad
I could
problem to
pitch in the
have.
big leagues too, but it never happened.
I'm just telling you that
Did
the
we
framing numbers.
we saw Ben Rice. We saw Ben Rice catch. It wasn't great.
But the framing numbers are what they looked at, and so how does that change? How does that change with the ABS coming in? Because there is a large value put to that. Because if Ben Rice needs to play first base and is a first baseman for the entire season, is that more value than mixing in Jason Dominguez in left field and putting Cody Bellinger in? Because Jason Dominguez can't hit lefties, so it's not really that platoon. And you're not going to put him in there when it's right-handers because you don't want Belly or Ben Rice out of the lineup. And Austin Wells is left-handed, so it's a heavy, heavy left-handed lineup that, the Red Sox just picked up another lefty too. So you think about how it's like working out. It'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting.
Guys will get hurt too.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
Giancarlo Stanton's not playing a full season or hitting a full season.
True.
So then you have a DH spot that's opened up for other guys to mix and match. So you've got some bashers.
One of those
What
guys
is
is
this?
gone. Dominguez or
You
Spencer.
think so? You think that they're going to trade one of them between now and the start of the season?
I do, only because I don't think they're in on the Zach Gowen, Framber. I'm forgetting another free agent pitcher that's still available, but I don't think they're in that. I don't think they're in that realm. I don't think they're in there.
You think they're trying to acquire someone via trade?
I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna end up happening. I think they would love to sign a Framber Valdez, but I don't know that they're necessarily in on who Framber is or what he's bringing to the table. And I think that's where getting Cody back helps just make some guys possibly expendable.
Okay, last part of the puzzle here, and then we're going to talk to Derek Levandowski later on to bring this conversation back up. Ryan in the chat, where are you guys putting the Yankees power ranked in the division right now? Belly's back. Let's remember, the Yankees haven't done a ton. This was the big spend so far. It hasn't been a huge offseason for them. They bring a guy back. They got Weathers the other day. They brought some others back, like Ahmed Rosario. But where do we have the Yankees right now? They got bounced by the Blue Jays. So they're below the Blue Jays. You've got them 3. Who's 2?
Red Sox.
Red Sox for you too, Kratz? They beat the
Yeah.
Red Sox in the playoffs. Not that it means anything now, but
Most likely, I haven't fully committed yet. I want to see the rest of the Orioles offseason. I want to see them pick up that starting pitcher that could help put them over the Red Sox, put the Yankees. I don't know that the Red Sox are completely done either. They need a little bit of lineup, but I'm going to say today, Red Sox are second, Blue Jays are first. I just think the Yankees will have a good team once everybody's back, but I think they're going to get too far behind early in the season, not having their horses in the starting rotation.
okay. We'll see if they grab a starting pitcher. So TBD, and we'll talk more about this coming up. Let's get to, are we going to do a segment for this? Yeah, we got it. You can be sick and tired of hearing about it. So are we, but the stories just keep on coming. Evan Drellick reports for The Athletic, and a source who is in on conversations that ownership groups have, which my guess is that they're in on the owners' meetings, said they are enraged about the Kyle Tucker deal. It is 100% certainty they're pushing for a cap no matter what it takes. See, pushing for a cap, that's whatever. That's what this tweet says. But if you actually look at the story, there it is. There's the quote. They're going for a cap no matter what it takes. Now, I felt like that was case for the most part anyway. The psychology
I tell you,
behind
who's not
this,
going for a cap?
the Dodgers
Mets,
and the Mets.
Blue Jays,
Phillies.
I don't know.
Phillies.
This story said that
Every owner is unified.
Yeah, no, that's
always
bullshit.
unified 30-0.
This story thinks that there's only two for sure, Mets and Dodgers, and that some of the other teams still would be down for a cap. This brings cost certainty, so every franchise value soars through the roof once you get a cap. That's a fact, okay? And at least half the league is super interested in that.
Dick Monfort, right, with the Rockies, has already come out and pretty much said it.
Yes. There's also probably 5 ownership groups that are going to sell their team if they get the cap within 2 years. It immediately gives them an extra like couple $100 million. The team that stands out the most, of course, it's a lock. The Twins will sell as soon as, if they get a cap, they're selling as soon as possible because they're looking for an extra $200 million. And they're like, sure, we'll take the hit and wait 2 years to get a cap for $200 million. Would you wait 2 years for $200 million?
No.
I think almost anybody on the planet would. So them, plus there's a number of others that I think will be sold if that happens. Nationals, Angels, we can go through a whole list there. Okay?
White Sox.
White Sox, right? They're already on the pathway to sell. I think the A's will be sold within a
Pirates
few
maybe
years.
with Nutting.
Yeah, so there are a lot of teams. Actually, it says that in the article. It says the next ownership meeting, which I think occur in about a month, will go over what they want to throw out there or what their ideal scenario is, not just with the cap, but with the floor. That would be a guarantee if they ended up pulling it off. I still don't think this is going to happen, but if they do pull that off, it's going to be a battle inside that room because the big market teams are sick of sharing with the small market teams. The small market teams, many of them are pocketing money. It's a fact. So in the article from Evan, it says if the floor is too high, it actually puts many of the teams like the Pirates in a tough spot. They would actually make much less money than they do now, right? If you're forcing them to spend, but you're not giving them much revenue sharing, then it actually would put them in a tougher spot. And maybe that leads to a sale, which would be a bonus for Pirates fans.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, right?
Just wake me up when it's over, please. Wake me up when this is all over. This is going to dominate the headlines for the next, 11 months, 10 months until that December 1st. And then after they lock them out, they'll blame the players and say the players are too greedy. But in reality, the owners will make more money if they get a salary cap, right? So they can say that it's the players. But at the end of the day, it's the owners that are the greedy ones because they're the ones that are going to make more money off of this from the way that I've kind of looked at this. Now, I could be off, and that's fine. Now, listen, am I a player, and do I want the players to get every dollar? Duh. Yes, of course I do. I just don't understand. Okay, I get the floor thing, okay? But you have to understand that when a owner goes into a season, and let's say baseball in 2027 makes, I'm going to use arbitrary numbers, $4 billion for easy math. Okay.
Way more. You should say 20.
We'll go 10 billion. Okay. Let's say they make 10 billion in 2027. Okay.
Okay.
They sign this new deal where it's supposed to be 50-50. Okay. Well, then, so the players are supposed to get 5 billion. The owners are supposed to get 5 billion. Right.
Does that include real estate?
No, because that's a different thing. Doesn't it? We only get the 5 billion to go into whatever company that we are using as the actual team, not the sales, not the tickets, not the real estate, however they break it up into their little shells, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the players only get their 5 billion, excuse me, okay? So that means there has to be a guaranteed $5 billion in salary spread throughout the entire league, right?
Sure.
What happens, the floor has to cover that. Well, then the next year the revenue goes to 12 billion. Does the CBA have a built-in escalator? Like there's so many questions.
It will have an escalator.
But then why? Okay, so if this is a perfect system,
yeah.
Why does the NBA strike and go on, and NFL have gone on strikes and lockouts? If they are all cap systems, NHL, same thing. They all have gone on strike. If this is such a perfect system, why are there still labor disputes?
I'll continue to say this. It just has to do with actually revenue sharing and making the teams actually spend the revenue sharing.
And you they don't get the full books open because I don't care what they say. Trust me, the owners are smart about this. They've been doing this for a long time. Oh, we're losing money. Well, the Pittsburgh Pirates franchise is losing money, but not on parking and not on ad sales and not on concessions because that's not considered Pittsburgh Pirates. That's Pittsburgh Pirates concessions. That's owned by the same people, but not what the team is listed under, right? And again,
Yes.
I'm just using the Pirates as I don't know that.
You're
So,
just putting it in vacuum, but yeah,
Yes.
it's hotels, it's
it's all
restaurants,
kind
the whole
think
deal.
about the Braves. The Braves actually have to open their books.
Mhm.
Now I don't know what the Atlanta Braves, if that counts all the battery money they make, but they made what 25 million or something last year, and they had a
With the
big
battery.
payroll.
Yeah. Well, we can see it all. They're profiting. They're crushing it.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's a good example of how teams are doing, and they're profiting with the team and with the outside investments like
the battery,
the battery.
the whole battery.
Yeah. Last word, Kratz.
I only have one thing. The source said these guys are going to go for a cap no matter what it takes. That's the part that's rarely talked about. Players don't care about a floor. Like a cap system, you have to have a floor. Great. The players aren't negotiating the floor. What are the owners going to give up? Are they willing to go to a cap and say, 4 years, you become a free agent? Where's that line? What are they looking to give up? Owners hate free agency. That was the original argument was, no, we don't want free agency. Players said, yes, we need it. Kurt Flood, different guys that held out, that created the system that we have now. What are they willing to give up? You hear every owner complaining, this is unfair. Fans are like, unfair, unfair, unfair. Well, what happens if that star is gone now at 24 years old when he made his debut at 20? Like, are they willing to give that part of it up? Because no matter what it takes, there's going to be a monstrous concession on the owner's side.
And if you're capped on what you can make, guess where most players are going to go once they're in their mid-20s? A big market to have super teams and make more on marketing dollars. What? That's
or
crazy.
like what's happening in the NHL, they're going to Florida, they're going to Vegas, and they're going to Texas because there's no state income.
Mhm.
So they make more money. I mean, that's one of the big, everyone's talking about in the NHL. Why do you think the Panthers and the Lightning are winning every Stanley Cup? And people in the NHL talk about it.
Mhm.
It's because there's no state income tax. Vegas won one, right? Because there's no state income tax. So players are like, well, if I can only make $10 million and I can save 10% by living in Florida, I'm going to play for them.
Hell yeah.
For unless, for the same amount of money.
Marlins and Rays are about to be good. Let's go.
Marlins and Rays are going to be maybe a destination.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. All right. So anyway, it sounds like, we might never play again if they say they'll do whatever it takes, or there might be another league, a players league that just forms the same thing. But we'll have plenty of time to talk about it. We only brought it up because it was a story someone just leaked from the ownership side that they wanted to get out there. I'm sick of talking about it, but it happens. All right, let's get to our next guest. We're excited to talk to Derek Johnson back on the show. Derek, I think, what was it, maybe a year, or has it been 2 years now?
Yeah, maybe 2.
2 years.
Yeah, maybe 2. Good to see you guys.
Okay, well, good to see you too. One of our favorite conversations last time, really getting deep into the weeds on the pitching side. So we appreciate the time again. Hope you're having a nice off season. First off, how is everything going for you? And are your off seasons kind of the same?
Yeah, well, I live in
Like year to year?
Cincinnati, so yeah, I live in Cincinnati, and I'm at the field quite a bit, and but yeah, typically it's about the same. There's not really a whole lot going on here, but yeah, it's been a productive off season for us so far on the pitching side of things, and I know our guys aren't done quite yet. They're still trying to figure out a couple more players if they can.
Before we get to the team, how many times or how many guys are actually in Cincinnati that you watch throw or are coming in working out? Because normally we hear about dudes that are down in Phoenix, down in Goodyear,
Right.
working out there.
Yeah, we actually just had an event, Reds Fest, and it's a big fan convention kind of thing. So I actually got to see pretty much every guy on the squad, at least throw the baseball, if not a bullpen. So that was good. I do spend some time in Arizona down there when we can in the laboratory, if you will, and see those guys pitch down there, every now and again as well.
Do you think more should be done for pitchers? We talk about the offseason. We're in the middle of it right now. Should more be done? I'm not trying to put more on your plate. I know you like your job, but you also like your family. So should more be done? Or do we let pitchers and position players, but you work with pitchers, kind of just go willy-nilly? We're going to go to tread. I'm going to go to drive line. Hey, talk to me in 2 weeks. Should teams that spend hundreds of millions of dollars on their roster spend more time with players in the offseason?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, and I think coaches, we talk about it all the time. I'm not sure there's a clear answer there, but what I will say is after every year, we put together a player plan for each guy that we know is going to be returning, and it's pretty extensive. We do a lot of work, a lot of digging on how the year went and maybe what we could do next, and try to simplify it down to a point where we've got one or two things that we want them to work on. Um, a lot of guys now have built the labs in their complexes and their spring training complexes, and so we have all of the capabilities pretty much that a driveline or a tread would have. I guess the question is, do they want an outside source? Maybe just another set of eyes, kind of looking at them. And I respect that. I mean, I think the guys at Driveline, the guys at Tread, they all have very good qualities about them. Probably the worst thing, if you could point to one thing, is they don't know the player nearly as well as I do. So, there's probably room for a little bit of both. But I do think that, I don't want to just turn the guys loose and say, hey, have at it. Now every year they all come back with one more new pitch that, we've got to figure out if they can use or not. And half the time, they scrap it about mid spring training anyway. But yeah, it's a great question.
Derek, where do you stand on pitchers throwing the whole offseason? Because you're talking about Tread and Driveline, and these guys throw innings and they do their up downs, especially bullpen guys. Let's say they get into 70 games and then they take 2 weeks off and then they're at Driveline or Tread or in Goodyear at your facility and they're chucking balls as hard as they can. And then guess what? It's only November, right? And then December, January, February, and then you got to be ramped up for April. So where do you stand on guys taking a breather? Because it seems like less and less guys take one.
You're right. It's sort of a trend, and I guess when I first got into it, it almost felt like they took too much time off, and now they're kind of gravitating back towards not as much time. And I think it varies on the guy. I think if he reached his max innings, there's probably a little bit of rest needed on the front end of things. We had a couple of guys that were close to 80 appearances in the bullpen, and certainly, that guy probably doesn't need to have a baseball in his hand. So I think timing is really important in that. One of the things that we try to do, some guys love it, some guys don't do it, but we kind of deload after the season's over. So I actually still have them throw a little bit after the seasons, usually about 3 times a week for a couple of weeks. Then it kind of goes to 2, and then they sort of put the arm to bed for a while. But I think timing is really important. If they're going to go to one of those places, I still think that there needs to be at least a chunk of time where they're just kind of actively in the weight room, Pilates, whatever that might be, without a baseball in your hand. So I think the later it gets, as you get into November and December, I think that'd be a perfect time to go to Tread or somewhere to do the work.
You mentioned new pitches. Does anybody have a new pitch? Like, this is the
They
time
all
for
do. I mean, you
they,
caught
they all
forever.
do.
That's they all, every year they have a new one, right? I mean, I'm kind of joking on that, but they're always kind of fiddle, right? Hey, I put this 2-seamer in my hand, I put this split in my hand, I'm thinking about a curveball, and that it's fine. To me, it's your career. If you want to experiment on a pitch that you think might help you be a better pitcher, then I'm all for it. I just think it's kind of funny too, because, a lot of times they'll come in and say, I've got that changeup that we've been talking about. And then halfway through spring training, they, refuse to kind of throw the thing. But, I think it's a good thing, in a joking sort of way.
Derek, you said something interesting in a couple answers ago about I give personal posts or off-season plans to guys that we are expecting your return. Well, we've heard Hunter Green, we've heard Andrew Abbott, we've heard Nick Lodolo on the trading block. So did they get their off-season plan because you're expecting them to be back?
Good segue. Yeah. And they did. They received one, and you never know what happens on the business side of things. You don't know for sure who is going to be on your team, probably until, maybe even opening day. But those guys, they're still young enough, they're controllable enough, and I know that there's rumors out there. I hear them too. I'm sure the players do. I think it's just like anything else. I mean, our guys have to, and I say our guys in the front office, they have to explore every option that they possibly can, and that includes trading some of our players. Do I hope that it happens? No, I don't. But at the same time, if it means that our team can get better in another way that we really need it to get better at, then I think you got to look at it and say, okay, well, we do have a little bit of depth pitching wise, especially on the starting end. They are fairly young still, so they're going to be, I think people are going to, they're going to gravitate towards that situation, and they're all pretty good. So, it does stand to reason that's a possibility. On the other side of things, I think our guys in the front office are smart enough too to try to do whatever they can to keep as much pitching here as possible, because it seems like every single year, especially in the smaller markets, you're not going to feel nearly as deep. A guy gets hurt, a couple guys gets hurt, and all of a sudden we don't have the same kind of depth that we thought we did. So I think it's a lot of just moving parts, and I expect them all to be there. And when they're not, or if they're not, then I guess the player plan goes with them, and whoever team they can figure it out.
Obviously, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you basically have 4 guys that are solidified for those 5 rotation spots. That last spot, Chase Burns is obviously a guy that's up there. What have you seen from him? What do you need to see from him or the other guys that are in competitions in spring training, when it's like, all right, guys, I know you're building up, but you're evaluating. We used to always say when we were playing, nobody makes the team on the first day of spring training practices, but you sure as heck could get cut on the first day because you show up and you look terrible, you don't throw well, you're lackadaisical, whatever it is. What are you trying to see from the guy who's going to take that spot, if it's Chase Burns or if it's somebody else?
Well, I mean, I can give you kind of 3 guys that would probably be in that mold of things. And, you're talking about Brandon Williamson, who's been here a little bit. He was hurt all of last year. Yeah, Rhett Lauder, who was here at the end of last year, 2 years ago. Same thing, had an oblique and ended up just not really having much of a season. And then you have Burnsy. I'll start with Burnsy and just say, like, listen, he's 22 years old, and he was fresh out of college, basically, when we brought him up. I mean, he barely had any minor league time at all. He learned a lot, I think, in the time that he was here. He kind of learned how to slow himself down, which is obviously a huge thing especially for a young guy. But he learned how to throw bullpens maybe in a little bit of a different way than what he was. He kind of figured out some of his timing with when he was going to lift weights and going to do all the stuff. And, that's kind of been I guess the battle cry around here, if you will. I mean, we've had a lot of really young pitchers who they just weren't finished products. So we had to work a lot on just normal things, throwing programs, just what the routine was going to look like. And, so I can go on down the list with every single guy that you mentioned here, that's what we had to do with them. So, it's no different with Burnsy. He was kind of learning on the fly, and he had his feet to the fire, and he did a really nice job. Lauder doesn't really have very much major league experience. He has some. He can really, really pitch. And, I'm looking forward to kind of letting those guys battle it out. And then, Brandon Williamson, man, like a couple years ago, he was pretty good, and he hung into games with us, and, just really kind of gave us a shot in the arm when we needed it.
Wait, DJ, I was going to ask something completely different, and now you brought it up. Your background was elite college baseball, and you came to pro ball. You were the pitching coach when I was on the Brewers at the same time, and now we're hearing minor league baseball could cut some of their teams because these elite college programs are getting the players ready already. But you just said Chase Burns wasn't quite ready in his preparation, so would you, seeing both sides of it now, trying to win in the big leagues and trying to win in college,
testing.
Can they take care of that? Can the colleges take care of what's needed for a man to compete in the big leagues professionally?
In a lot of ways, yes, but in so many just functional ways, no. I mean, you think about it, obviously they're
Testing.
pitching more. And they just there's just things in the big leagues that there's no way a college team could ever prepare the player for. I mean, on the physical side, sure. But it's going to be really, really hard for them to match that.
All right. Now, you quit on the Brewers and went to a nice contract. I remember having a conversation with you that you were like, I got to do this for my family. And it's been an incredible move from the Brewers to the Reds. I don't know if we're going to show the chart, but one of the great interns for us made a chart from Baseball Savant that had basically the graph of how the Great American Small Park, which is a home field for the Reds, used to suck to pitch in. And ever since you've been there, it has steadily gotten tougher and tougher to hit in. Is that a concerted effort, or is that just a reality of the pitchers you have? Because your home numbers for your starting rotation for your staff are much better than your road numbers. So is there a concerted effort to make a place where free agent pitchers say, I'm not going there, hit a fly ball? Even AJ can hit a home run there.
Well, I mean, I do think it's gotten better, but I think it's just been more of a mental adjustment. Back then, they were looking for a lot of contact pitching, sinker slider guys that could put the ball on the ground. And not that was the wrong way, but it certainly didn't really change anything that they were doing. I mean, their pitching was still, not probably as good as it needed to be. When I got here, there was one thing for sure that we talked a lot about, and that was swing and miss. I did want to make guys miss the ball because of the size of the ballpark. And we've done a better job of that. And of course, we've had years where we've struck a lot of guys out. We've had, a lot of whiff and that kind of thing. We've had other years where it wasn't quite as much. And, I think with young pitchers who throw hard, you're going to probably get too much walk in there as well, which isn't a good thing in this kind of ballpark. But, first, we don't ever talk about it. It's never going to be an excuse for us. We know that we play in a small ballpark. We've seen the front row homers that shouldn't be home runs. But I do think it comes from that mentality of swing and miss and not just contact. I mean, we want weak contact as well. But man, if I could choose one or the other, I'd choose whiff every single time, especially in this ballpark. The other thing too is I think when you come to this kind of ballpark, and you guys both hit, so you know better than I, but I also almost think that they put a little bit more pressure on themselves to try to hit a homer, so if we can use that aggression against them, that's going to help us.
Is Hunter Green an ace? We talk about this several times. There's only, in my opinion, AJ's opinion, there's only 7 to 10 aces in the game. There's a lot of number ones. Sure. Is Hunter Green an ace?
It's a great question, and the answer to that is he sure can be, and he's on his way to be. I think like anything else, when you think of an ace, you think of a guy that he's going to take the ball every time, and he's just going to grind things out, and everyone's going to look at him when he's pitching and say that's my guy. And I think Hunter took great steps towards that last year. Unfortunately for him, he just keeps getting banged up a little bit, and there's just enough of that to where it's like as soon as he can get into that 180 inning range, I think that we're all going to be maybe looking at that saying, yeah, that's what an ace looks like. But there's a maturity part of that too, and he's now been in the league, I don't know what, 3 or 4 years or whatever it's been. And he's taken steps in every facet of that as well. And it's fun to watch because, Lodolo's done that. Abbott's done that. I expect that Burnsy will too. So, I just think there's those stepping stones that pitchers take. And, we've seen almost, again, kind of like underneath the spotlight of these guys taking those steps to get to that status. And Hunter's certainly capable, and he's a great kid, and he's become a very, very good worker, very conscientious in what he does, and he's become a real pro.
We're talking to Derek Johnson, pitching coach director, pitching for the Cincinnati Reds, a vet in our game, a guru of pitching. Derek, what do you think about the baseball? Do you think it's ever going to change drastically or have more consistency in Major League Baseball? It's probably not a topic you think about a ton, but we don't really get to
No,
spend a
I
lot of
mean,
time with someone like you during the season. So curious to get your thoughts.
no, I don't think about it a lot. I mean, it's pretty easy to see, like when you grab a baseball, sometimes it just feels really good in your hands and sometimes it doesn't. And they all are still different. I mean, they are hand wound or whatever. So, um, I mean, I I think the balls are fine. They put them in the humidor. They do all the stuff that they're supposed to do. They rub them, regulation. I think the one thing that I always kind of laugh about is, we're rubbing a baseball with mud from a river somewhere. I don't know, Delaware or wherever it is. You would think that there'd be a product out there that we could rub up a baseball with that would actually be a little better than, river mud. Um, I mean, there's leather conditioner. I put leather conditioner on a baseball and it's still pretty white, but man, the thing feels tremendous in my hand. Whereas, you put the mud on it, you put it in the humidor, it comes out, and sometimes they just feel real, real slick, real chalky. It's almost like the mud made it worse. So I don't think it'll change unless they tackify it. They've talked about that before. They've never really were able to come up with anything that everyone was okay with. But I felt some of those tack balls, and they felt fine with me. I know Japan uses them all the time, and I think the guys there like them.
Yeah, that's why I asked. We got to get rid of the mud situation at some point. Poor mud getting used
I
up
mean,
on the baseball.
we're using
Right?
mud. Weird.
It is weird.
That's such an MLB mafia type of thing to do. Like, hey, I know a guy that's got some Delaware mud. We're gonna put it on the ball. Like there's mud everywhere. Just
Right,
put any
right.
mud on it.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
cousin's
no,
got
I
the
don't
mud.
know, fellas. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm with you. Well, Derek, we appreciate the time. The insight's always awesome. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the off season while you've got it, and we'll see you in spring training.
Hey, thanks, fellas. I appreciate being on.
Thank you. That's Derek Johnson from the Reds. All right, here we are, a couple minutes away, or maybe even less, to continue the conversation about the breaking news today. The news that everyone was waiting for, that almost everyone knew was coming. Cody Bellinger signing back with the New York Yankees. Derek Levandowski is going to join us in a moment, so we'll talk it out. We can ask some of those questions that you had, AJ, to Derek and see what he says. All right, let's do it right now. He's ready. Derek Levandowski, Pinstripe Territory host and star, joining us right now, right after Cody Bellinger signs. And of course, head over to Pinstripe to get more insight. There'll be plenty of action there from Derek already today, and then more, of course, later on too. But Derek, what was your initial reaction to this news that we kind of saw coming?
Well, I figured last night when the Mets made the deal for Robert Jr. that it was pretty much a done deal that Bellinger was going to come back to the Yankees. I'm glad it happened. I think he makes the team more versatile. I think he makes them better than they were without him. They're basically back to where they were at the end of last season, so I still think there's probably some more work to do. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the other outfielders on their roster now. If you figure that, Bellinger's going to play left field usually, right, and maybe spare Judge in right field, maybe play a little bit of first base to spare Ben Rice once in a while. How much is Jason Dominguez's playing time going to be affected? What happens to top prospect Spencer Jones? Do they maybe trade one of those guys? We've heard Freddie Peralta mentioned. So now that you got this big move out of the way, it kind of allows you to fill in the rest of the roster, given your current assets. But I'm glad to have him back. I thought he was a great Yankee. I thought he played extremely well in his first season, and he has to have done pretty well for himself. I mean, last year he was traded for Cody Poteet from the Cubs, and he got DFA'd about a week later. And now Bellinger, a year later, is getting $32 million a year contract. So it worked out well for him.
First 2 years, by the way, he makes 42.5, so he makes more than Aaron Judge. Just saying, Derek. Just throwing it out there. Those are not my opinion. That's just the facts. So I hope you guys understand that for the next 2 years, Cody Bellinger is making more than Aaron Judge, who obviously has been MVP so many times, home runs, all that stuff. So just understand that he did pretty well. Cody Bellinger did. But I want to know what took so long. This was reported like 2 weeks ago that, hey, the Yankees have said, here's the offer. did it take the Mets being out? Were the Mets really the only other suitor? Because if it was the Blue Jays like we heard about, and there was other teams, well, this Yankee offer has been on the table for a long time. What changed?
Well, the Mets obviously losing a spot in the outfield. That took away one of their suitors. I think, Boris does this. He likes to go to the limit with his guys, take his free agents as deep as he can. I think Cody Bellinger ultimately wanted to know where he was going to be. He enjoyed his time with the Yankees. Why change? Go beat the Blue Jays, right? Don't join them. Let's beat them. Let's win the division. I mean, you lost it by, just the head-to-head matchup last year. Maybe this year we come out and beat them. And I think, you mentioned Aaron Judge. I don't think Aaron Judge cares about salary. Aaron Judge at this point wants to win a ring. He's he's accomplished everything you can do from an individual standpoint, other than maybe the Triple Crown, right? I don't think he's won a Gold Glove yet, but he wants a ring, and he still probably has that bad taste in his mouth from the 2024 World Series against the Dodgers. And, we saw him erupt in the postseason this year. Unfortunately, the Yankees couldn't get it done. He wants to accomplish something while he's still young enough to maintain these powers that he's got, right? So I think, Cody hitting in front of Judge helps him. He basically said, I'm going to get better pitches to hit in front of AJ. Let me go back there. I think it's a good move for everybody. It makes the Yankees more versatile. He can play left, he can play first, he can play center, he can play right. He's a hustler, right? He plays good baseball. The Yankees don't have a lot of guys who cut down on their swing with 2 strikes. They don't have a lot of lefties who hit lefties. So he helps the Yankees in a number of different ways. And I think that what took so long was just Scott Boras trying to get the best deal. And Brian Cashman saying, hey, we're not going to bid against ourselves. If you have a better offer, then take it. And obviously that didn't happen.
Did you feel confident in that? Did you feel confident when that came out that they were sticking firm and you were like, okay, well, we'll just pivot to, oh boy, who would we pivot to if we don't get Cody? And were you confident that the Yankees didn't need to change their offer?
I was not super confident that he would come back. We read about a week ago that the Yankees were willing to let him walk. And when you figured that the Mets and Blue Jays were both in it, you thought maybe one of them might go crazy and outbid the Yankees. But, if there's one thing that Cashman is known for, it is sticking to his guns in contract negotiations. He let Robinson Cano walk. He's let people walk before. And they basically made their offer and they stuck to it. And they said, Cody, look, this is more than fair. They added in some opt-outs and they gave him some incentives and so forth that, maybe make it a little bit more digestible for him. But at the end of the day, he's getting paid $32 million to hit in front of Aaron Judge. I don't think it's that bad of a deal.
No, it's not bad. All right, well, you mentioned it a little bit. Who goes? Dominguez, young still, hasn't really proven anything. And when he's gotten shots, he hasn't been great, especially in the outfield. Spencer Jones has been hyped for years, is untouchable. People are starting to maybe lose a little faith in Spencer Jones. But now you have Grisham, Bellinger, Judge in the outfield with Stanton. If they truly want to play Ben Rice at first base, who goes? Because you kind of starting to get a little logjam there in the outfield.
That's a great question. And you also have Ahmad Rosario who can play a little bit of the outfield too against lefties, right? You figure he might play left field when there's a lefty on the mound or he could play third base if there's a lefty on the mound. So he's another one of these utility pieces. Personally, I'm a big Dominguez fan. I loved his approach against right-handed pitchers from the left side. I would have liked to have seen a bit more power, but he's just 22 years old. He's already hitting 40 points higher than both Austin Wells and Anthony Volpe, who've been in the league a couple of years. So he's a guy who can hit, who has the tools. I like him, but like you said, he's not a bad outfielder. He's an abomination of an outfielder. He is barely serviceable as an outfielder. Whereas you have Spencer Jones, who is a fantastic outfielder. He can play center field. He's got Aaron Judge level power, but he strikes out at a 40% clip in AAA. So it's like, pick your poison. What do you want? A guy who can't field or a guy who strikes out all the time? I don't know if they're going to move either one of them. It wouldn't surprise me if they let Spencer Jones kind of, start the season in AAA and see how he does against that next crop of AAA pitchers. When he got moved up to AAA at the end of the year, I got the feeling like a lot of the pitchers he was facing and hitting all those home runs against were the people who were left in AAA after the pitching had been diluted at the major league level and a lot of the top prospects had gotten called up. Let's see how he does to begin the year. You know, if he's hitting 360 in June with all these home runs against like the top AAA pitchers, then maybe you take another look. But as of right now, I think I would refrain from moving either of those guys unless you have to as part of a deal for someone like Freddie Peralta. You know, maybe you package a Jones or a Dominguez with a Will Warren and and maybe a couple of other prospects as part of a deal for Freddie Peralta. I'm bad at predicting.
Oh, you froze. You froze on us a little bit, but I think we have you back now. So,
Yeah.
But for people who don't know Derek, he's lost a lot of weight, and clearly he's lost love for Jason Dominguez. So I guess that's where it's at. But we had this discussion. I know you're not. I think you said when you froze that you're not good at predictions. But as a Yankees fan, you want a starting pitcher, and let's say the starting pitcher is Freddie Peralta. You don't get to choose who you get rid of. The Brewers say we want, and they probably agree with you, that they would want Spencer Jones because of all the things you said about Jason Dominguez. Are you okay getting rid of Will Warren and Spencer Jones for Freddie Peralta?
I think you'd have to do it. I mean, if you look at Full Kitchen Freddie, as you guys call him, I mean, he's durable, 30 starts a year. He misses bats. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's got a really reasonable contract. I believe it's only $8 million this year that he's making. I think Freddie, there's very little that I wouldn't trade to get Freddie Peralta. And Will Warren, he's a nice pitcher. He's controllable. He took a big step forward this year. If you look at what he did the previous season, where he just got shellacked in his first cup of coffee in the major leagues, I wasn't expecting much from him. But then he had a really serviceable year. He was 9-8 with, I believe, a 4.44 ERA. He had more than a strikeout per inning. He's a really good young pitcher. I think the Brewers would be able to do something with him, and I think he would be certainly one of the people they would want back. And the Yankees do have a lot of like young pitching, on the come up. They have Elmer Rodriguez, they have Carlos Lagrange. They've got a number of guys who could fill that, that final rotation spot if somebody goes down in spring training. So I think a Spencer Jones and a Will Warren would. I mean, it might not get it done. It might not be enough. But I would certainly have no opposition to including both of those guys in a trade for Freddie Peralta. Even if it is just 1 year of control, you pair up Freddie Peralta with Max Fried and Garrett Cole returning in maybe May or June, Carlos Rodon coming back. He had some trouble when he missed spring training a couple of years ago, and it sounds like that could be an issue again this year. So if he comes back strong, he had a really good year last year, you're looking at a pretty good rotation. You still got the 2024 Rookie of the Year in Luis Gil. So I think you can move a Will Warren and still be pretty good. You got Cam Schlittler. I mean, Cam Schlittler, what he did last year was amazing. I mean, maybe you can move Luis Gil as part of a deal too. I mean, he's got a triple-digit fastball. He's shown success at the major league level. I mean, I would have no issues trading Gil, Warren, and Spencer Jones if it meant getting back Freddie Peralta. I mean, that's the kind of pitcher he is.
Let me just say this. I proposed all of that. And Scott Braun
bring me in.
And Eric Kratz said no chance that we will give up.
I did not say that.
1 year of Freddie Peralta.
Don't put my name on that. I did not say that. I was agreeing with you.
Scott was like, "You're crazy. You're crazy if you give up Jones and Will Warren for 1 year of Freddie or Dominguez and Will Warren." Or whatever, like, we're not giving up. I even brought up Luis Gil, and Scott was like, "You're crazy."
No, I didn't say you're crazy, but I was like, then Gil's going to be the centerpiece of the deal. Like, for me, Derek, I think the Yankees would go Gil and Jones is way too much for us.
They might say that, but I mean, when you're talking about a pitcher the caliber of Freddie Peralta, I mean, that is a big time difference maker. He's not just anybody. This is a guy who's making $8 million and, he could win you 20 games. He was 17-6, I believe. He had an ERA around 3. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but he's really solid. And if you have aspirations to win before the lockout and try and get Aaron Judge a win in his prime, I had Ken Rosenthal on a couple of weeks ago, and I said, what's the priority for the Yankees? And he basically said, win while Aaron Judge is still Superman. Essentially, if you're trying to win this year, how can you best go about that, right? And I think all of you, with the exception of Scott, as professional baseball players, know that you go as far as your pitching takes you. And we saw that in the postseason, right? Right. We saw how many starters did the Dodgers begin the season with? 9, 10 starters. And then at the end of the year, you've got, Tyler Glasnow pitching out of the bullpen in back-to-back days. You've got Roki Sasaki pitching out of the bullpen. You got Yamamoto pitching back-to-back nights. By the end of the year, your pitching thins out. And I think as many top of the line pitchers as you can add, you need to add in this modern game.
Okay, let me ask you this, Derek. How much of all this is, and the Yankees and other teams have tried to do this for years, overhyping the prospects, right? Here we are. We got you going, Spencer Jones, Jason Dominguez, this guy. Oh, we can't trade him. He's too good. Meanwhile, really trying to trade him just because you're pumping him up. So how much of this is just overvaluing the prospects? And then if it's not Freddie Peralta, Scott keeps saying Nick Pivetta or Mackenzie Gore, right? Would you give up Will Warren and Jason Dominguez or Will Warren and Spencer Jones for Mackenzie Gore or Nick Pivetta?
I'd have to look at Pivetta's numbers. I've always liked Mackenzie Gore, though. I like lefties at Yankee Stadium, and they have some good lefties on the roster. They just picked up Ryan Weathers. I think that they're looking at Ryan Weathers as somebody they can kind of coach up a little bit if they get him to cut down on his four-seam fastball, get him to use his pitch mitch a little bit. That's really a tough decision, right? I mean, you have to really take a look at who has control as a pitcher, like long-term control. Who's probably going to leave as a free agent. There's a lot of factors that go into that. I honestly trust Cashman a lot when it comes to trades. He usually does pretty well with trades, especially when dealing prospects. Sometimes they do hang on to prospects a bit long and they wither on the vine a little bit. I mean, we saw that with Clint Frazier and so forth. But I think that I'd be comfortable moving Warren and probably Spencer Jones for another top flight starting pitcher. Again, I'd have to dig into the numbers to see my individual reaction on somebody like Mackenzie Gore or Pivetta, but ultimately prospects are just prospects until they do something. And unfortunately, as much as I love Dominguez, he hasn't done a lot yet. And Spencer Jones striking out 40% of the time in AAA it's got to be a concern. So I think you got to improve the major league roster as much as you possibly can. You're in a very tough division. The Red Sox are going to be better. Roman Anthony is looking like he's going to be the next superstar in the league. Ken Griffey Jr.'s level talent. You got the Blue Jays that had an unbelievable offseason. The Yankees have their work cut out for them, and I think anything they can do to mitigate the improvements that have been made throughout the division will, obviously be something you have to do.
Let's say those prices are too steep to trade for anybody. I don't see Framber Valdez coming into the mix. Do you see a Zach Gallen getting signed by the Yankees on a one-year type of deal? To me, a prove-it type of Boris client who is an East Coast guy, has had success for his career. Just this last season, this platform year, he was down.
I could see it. It depends on what the asking price is, and with Boris, it's obviously going to be high, even if he had a down year. But if there's one place I do trust the Yankees a lot, it's in these reclamation projects. They tend to find guys that have struggled a little bit, make a tweak, get them to be better. I mean, it tends to happen with the relievers. I mean, look at Luke Weaver and Clay Holmes, two guys who came over to the Yankees as kind of unheralded pitchers and then got huge contracts with the Mets after the Yankees fixed them. Devin Williams obviously had a tough year. He ended up with the Mets too, but it's a different scenario. I think that any chance you have to improve your pitching, you should take it. If it means Zach Gallen, it means Zach Gallen. If it means trading for a Pivetta or a Gore, you got to do it. But I think the Yankees are more inclined to make a trade than to sign a free agent at this point. That just seems to be the direction of the offseason.
Last one. Where do they end up? Where do you have the Yankees in the American League East currently today after signing Cody Bellinger?
Well, it's January 21st, so it's tough to say without knowing the full makeup of the roster. But if the season started today, I'd probably have the Yankees and Red Sox battling for second place behind the Blue Jays. That being said, anything can happen in baseball, right? People get hurt, people get traded. Roster issues come up. People break out. What if Ben Rice takes that next step and goes to a 35 or 40 home run hitter? What if Austin Wells next year, instead of hitting, 212 with 20 home runs, it's 250, 260 with 30, 35 home runs. I mean, that changes the calculus a little bit. Jazz Chisholm missed a month last year, and he was on 40-40 pace. He still went 31-31. If he stays healthy in his contract year, what does that guy do? I mean, I could see him having an enormous season. So there's a lot of different ways to go. Right now, I would put the Yankees probably ahead of the Red Sox a little bit, but that could change depending on how these young players perform. And we've seen young players like in the division. It looked like a couple of years ago, the Orioles were getting ready to win the division for 10 straight years, and then they've taken a step back. I'm not saying that's going to happen to the Red Sox, but you never know with young players, right? The league can adjust. So right now, I'm going with the Yankees as number 2 in the division. I think they're going to be battling out for the wild card again. And I think maybe we'll get another Yankees-Red Sox wild card series if I had to make my bet in Vegas.
I like it. It's going to be a fun year. The division is stacked.
By the way, Yankee fans, we used to never say that. We're gonna battle it out for second.
Hey,
look at us, guys.
We don't want to say that. We want to win the title. We want to be first base. But if you're being realistic, the Blue Jays had a dang good offseason. And look, we're not here to blow smoke up anybody's what. I mean, if Cashman wants to win the division, he's got some work to do.
Agreed. Yeah, Blue Jays were the better team last year, and they added on more so than the Yankees did so far. Derek, good stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on last minute, and maybe we'll talk again for the next big move, all right?
Appreciate it, guys. See you later.
Thank you, dude. See ya. Pinstripe territory. Get after it. Derek and a post-game show after every game during the season. Tons of off-season content. And yeah, it's only January, so you bet that there's going to be more for the Yankees, at least on the pitching front, like Derek is talking about. Maybe they land one of these trades. They couldn't get Cabrera. Maybe they'll get someone else. What's next? BetMGM futures. How about those Blue Jays? 88.5 dubs. Think that's low?
Yeah. They won how many last? They won 94 last year, right?
I believe so.
Because they tied the Yankees at 94. So how did their number go down?
Yeah, 94. Well, they got worse. They only added 1 million people this offseason.
That's
They did
what I'm
lose
saying.
Bo Bichette. That's not nothing.
But they picked up Dylan Cease. They picked up
Ponce. Okamoto. Rogers in the bullpen.
I mean, I think they got much improved. Just my opinion.
Bo is a big
Bo's a
deal
big piece.
there. He had a good year.
He did, but
it's not costing them 6 wins, though.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the division got a little bit better too, which maybe people are thinking, MGM's thinking, but I don't know. I think this one's an over.
World Series hangover? No, I mean, I know the winners
the
usually
losing
pegged.
team in the World Series usually the next year doesn't do great.
Yeah. I mean, they went deep. I mean, you went as deep as you can go into the playoffs. You really worked, guys.
But a lot of those guys
aren't
aren't even back. Scherzer, Bassett, those guys aren't back. Bo's not back. Bo was playing on one leg. I don't know.
It's
I think they're
Savage.
a 90-win team.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking the over. I'm just presenting maybe why they'd throw it out there. Kratz, any ideas?
If the number was 90, then I'd be like, I'm not touching it. But because it's 88, I'm like, man, why does this feel like it should be? Like it should be an over. And that's what makes me scared. It just seems too much like an over. But because they have them pretty much finishing right the same amount of wins as the Cubs, Mets, Blue Jays, Braves, all Red Sox, all right in that 87, 88 range. And I think there's a clear distinction of the Blue Jays being a better team than them. But then 2 years ago, we would have never said that.
Things change fast in our league. So drop a comment if you have other thoughts as to why it's gone down to 88.5. I mean, I'm sure it was affected by maybe an anticipation that Kyle Tucker was going to sign. He doesn't end up signing there. So we shall see. BetMGM promo time. A no sweat token, your stake back in bonus bets for an NBA bet. Add it to your bet slip, activate the token. If it loses, you'll receive bonus bets. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's slap. Okay, just a minute here to get to the Hall of Fame. So you had two center fielders, born a day apart, by the way, and we talked about it at the top, but Andrew Jones and Carlos Beltran getting in. The only other center fielders that have been elected since 1981, Ken Griffey and Kirby Puckett. That is fucking crazy. To ignore a position like that for that long, you've got to be kidding me. AJ already did his thing yesterday on Torrey Hunter, but there are other names too we talked about before the show.
Kenny Lofton. There's a lot of guys.
Bernie Williams should get some more love again.
Williams.
Yeah. But
it's become, listen, this is my soapbox, and people, it's become a popular, it always has been a popularity contest, but now it's even more of a popularity contest when you start comparing numbers, which is fine. I get it. But as long as you go into and say it's a popularity contest, much like for years, Gold Glove was a popularity contest, right? Certain awards were popularity contests. All-star games are 100%, especially when the players started voting on them. It's 100% a popularity contest. Oh, this is my boy. I played with him. I liked him. Let's vote for him. He's having a decent start to the season, right? All that stuff. It's all, as long as we understand that it's a popularity contest, that's fine. But with the numbers that we used to count on being the numbers to get you in are not there anymore because of the length of contracts and guys playing not as long and all that, like 300 wins, 3,000 hits, all that stuff has kind of gone by the wayside. Now it's opening it up to more players, and what causes it is then when these certain players get in, then you have to go back and look at other players and say, dang, he was just as good. Why isn't he in? Right? So it opens it up to a broader conversation, which is fine. It's just as a different conversation than it used to be. Like, I used to watch a guy and be like, that dude's a Hall of Fame. Like, I played against Griffey, Albert Pujols, right? Like, those dudes are Hall of Famers. When it gets to, and I look and I'm like, yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame. Not saying anybody this year or any other years. I'm just saying there are times where you're like, and then when they don't, what another thing I don't understand is if you get a certain amount your first year and then what do you get? Your numbers don't get better 10 years later.
Well, that's always a thing.
It's like, again, I'm happy Carlos Beltran got in. I'm very happy both of them and Andrew Jones got in. I know them both. I played with Andrew. I played against Carlos for a long time. I am very ecstatic that they got in. But then when you look at, you read articles about next year and who's going to get in. Buster Posey's first year, he's more than likely going to get in. But then Chase Utley, and you start digging into the numbers. Well, why did Jeff Kent not get in? Jeff Kent's numbers blow Chase Utley's out the water, right? But he didn't get in until the Veterans Committee voted him in. Why? Because of popularity. The media didn't love him.
Correct.
It's just the way it is. And as long as we accept that, we can have a conversation about it.
Chase Utley went from 39.8% last year to 59.1% this year. He's going to get in very soon, if not next year, the year after. Felix Hernandez had a 26% spike. He's going to get in at some point over the next few years. Then you look back. How does Felix Hernandez get in and we don't give more love to Johan Santana, right? Johan Santana was freaking dominant. I mean, so was Felix, but I'm like, those guys have good comps in there. Even Bobby Abreu actually shot up. He's at 31%
Look at Jorge Posada's numbers and tell me how the heck he's not in.
I have no idea how Posada's
I think he was only on the ballot for 1 year and got kicked off.
Well, that's part of the problem is the 5% thing is kicking people off. Pedroia went up from 11 to about 21%. Cole Hamels, first year on the ballot, 24%. He's going to get in. These guys are going to get in.
Okay, but then I go back and then people are going to say, teammate. Cole Hamels, Mark Burley. Cole Hamels has like 160 wins. Mark Burley has 200 and something wins. It's like,
there's other categories.
I understand, but if you look at their numbers, you stack them up. You can make an argument one or the other, and same you throw Andy Pettitte in there, right? They're all like the three of them are like almost equal, right? But Cole Hamels is coming on later, so now he's got more time, whereas Andy Pettitte's kind of getting to the end, or Burley's kind of starting to get to the end now, right? And their numbers haven't jumped enough.
I have a theory.
We could do 3. We need to get to May Day. We could do 40 hours on this.
I agree. Besides the popularity, I think that there was a time period where the ballots were clogged. There was all this steroid era stuff going on, and actually, most of those guys didn't get in, right? The big names that we've talked about, like Bonds and Clemens. And then I think now there's a market correction going on. Kratz, you got to vote some guys in. They're not hitting those counting stats that you want to hit. So then you start comparing some of these guys that are getting love now, and you look back to guys from 10, 15 years before. And you're like, wait, the comps match up here. So maybe the Veterans Committee will clean that up on the back end.
Yeah, it's tough. And there's always going to be, because you take that next level of guys, that next layer of guys, and then there's the next layer of guys that are close. It's great. It's a great combo. I love it.
It is. Good debate. Kratzats, and then we're getting out.
I mean, DJ came on. I think a sneaky team. I can't wait till we get to their over-under on wins. With that good of a pitching staff, just watch them. Just watch. They might be pretty decent.
I can't believe that we did Monday's show with me out and we talked about the Ellie extension and I couldn't defend him, but whatever. We'll talk about it again at some point. Trevor May Day, live on FT right now. Let's get out of here. Yeah, there we go. 3 o'clock Eastern. Oh, wait, it's already on. So check it out. Part of the FT network. Trevor's on for the next hour. Give him some love. Stay here for more baseball talk. I'm sure he'll talk about Cody's contract and a lot more. Tomorrow, Brent Rooker is back on the show. Looking forward to that.
Another guy from Mississippi, by the way. Just FYI, I went to Mississippi State. Just saying.
Sip the sip. They can hit.
High school.